Testing, testing. Here we are. We made it. Third time's the charm. Hello, hello.
Hello. Did we do it 3 times? I thought it was just
Well, we
yesterday
did it. Well, we tried to do a stream yesterday morning. And Doe Baby woke up, and then this morning we slept past a little bit from where we meant to wake up. I was trying to get the microphone to connect. Doe Baby woke up again, but now he's watching stuff, so we can I don't know, just slipped in this little stream. So anyway, this is my mother.
Hello, hello.
Graham Cracker.
Graham Cracker.
I'm also mother. So we're gonna talk mom things, and I'm gonna pester her with questions because even when I was like a teenager, I'd pester her with questions about handling kids because she's handled a lot of kids.
There's always kids around.
Always extra kids.
Yeah.
She'll pick up kids and just be like, all right.
I don't guess I'm picking up any extras from here. Take back home.
Yeah, no, you're not taking back extra kids from the foreign country, but so yeah. Oh wait, let me drop the Morrow link into the chat here. You can submit questions there. My poor computer is struggling.
I did see the other day at the grocery store you dropped me off at, there was a little girl, and it looked like she just wouldn't come with her mom. I don't know, she looked about 2.5 years old. The mom was, I don't know, the mom kind of like hid behind something and crouched down, and then I don't know what if she was trying to get the girl to come, but I kind of walked up in front and I leaned down and squatted up, like looking at her at eye level, and just waved. And the little girl just looked at me, her eyes got real big, she turned around and ran. I was like, I don't know, I was trying to be helpful, get the kid to go back to mommy.
Did she run back to mom?
Yeah.
Was it a local?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have noticed like, people are very friendly and interactive with kids over here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've seen the locals, get down smiling on eye level and, gesture to the little ones. So,
make them talk or try to be. I've mentioned it before on stream, but there's been a couple times that kiddo was kind of having a meltdown moment, and like a local would try and like come help or has walk by and maybe I don't know, try and help him out in some way. Lots of kids out here in this area. All right, let me see. I was getting the link and then putting it over. Where did my chat go?
Swarms of kids, lots of babies, and there's packs of 10 to 12-year-olds just running and playing. They in the parks and festival areas, they really just run. I was watching that they constantly played less like running, chasing games, and lots of baby wearing around here.
Oh yeah. Though I noticed, I think a lot of them, like the front carry, they'll have the baby like kind of super low in the carrier, or maybe their torso just looks different.
I mean, I've seen a lot of front carry with the ergo type ones like I have, and then seen some that it's like the seat hip, but more substantial base,
and then it's got
the carrier for
got
the
like
kiddo,
the carrier attachment. I've seen those.
Right in front,
I need to get. I've seen when we were in Tokyo last. Basically like a very simple kind of sling, where it's like kind of whatever strap, and then like kind of wider, like fabric pouchish area. So when you've got a toddler and you're walking, it's a little more holdy. But it was like super small and simple, and I'm like, I need one of those. That's extra support. All right, hopefully everyone was able to come find this stream. We'll see all the moving about scuff and whatnot, but anyways. All right, questions. Let me go over to questions. I put the link in the chat.
Questions put me to work.
Yeah.
Now you've got to make me do school this morning.
I'm making a weird face at her. What kind of comment was that?
Give me an assignment.
Okay. Also, like, when did you start babysitting?
When I was very, very young. So, let's see, there was probably my very first actual babysitting was probably more like years old, and the neighbor kids would have a babysitter over. But while the babysitter was watching them, I would be the one playing with them and taking care of the two little boys out in the cul-de-sac we lived in. And I made the very silly 8-year-old decision that while the babysitter was supposed to be watching them, I took the boys off for a long walk. We were safe, but we kind of disappeared and freaked everybody out. I don't know because obviously it was a long time ago, not cell phones. I don't know who they contacted or how far up the chain of panic it went, but I disappeared with the boys. And after that point,
You've always been stealing kids.
yes, I've always been stealing kids. It was two little boys. I remember their names, but I won't say their names. And they were probably at the time, I'm trying to picture, maybe like 2 and 4, 3 and 5 years old. I think after that, the parents realized that they ought to just get me to watch their kids. And so, since we were right next door, my parents are right there, I started watching them. But I started doing serious babysitting, let's see, probably right about 6th grade, whatever age that is. Let's see, 14, 13, about 11, 12. That there was a specific family up the road that I would babysit for pretty much every Friday and Saturday. I had 3 little kiddos. Got really close to that family. Yeah, they would pretty much practically be gone all night. I think they would come back. Then we'd ride 4-wheelers during the day, and then they'd go out at night and leave me with the kids. And so I know all in middle school, I carried their pictures in my wallet. You know, I'd show them off at school, like, hey, these are my kids. They were super cute. A little boy that was baby at the time, and of course then he grew up, but I was probably watching them from when he was about 6 months old until he was 2, and then 2 little girls, just a little bit older, stair steps. But now that I say that, I actually know there was another family I babysat for in between when I was, so I was probably about 10, and yeah, there's 2 families on our cul-de-sac that had baby girls. And they would use me at age 10, like to go off to doctor's appointments, or I know that because one was a really fussy baby girl, and I know there was times I would babysit her just while the parents were busy, like doing things in the yard, and then there was times that they must have been gone because I would just be walking circles of the sidewalk around our cul-de-sac because that baby was a cranky, colicky little girl. And then there was a baby next door. I loved her name. I almost wanted to use her name. It actually started with an A.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when I was picking names. Yeah, I liked her name, and I babysat her quite a bit because the parents were gone, and that was before I was really involved with the family, so I was 10, maybe 11, but I don't know. Then I babysat that family a lot, but I guess my name around because there was some families that I would get driven to and just babysit randomly, one off. One family had a big Burmese mountain dog. I don't think I babysat, but they were somewhere else because I had to get driven there, and then the dad had to drive me home. But then
So it started young.
yeah, I was always. Oh, that's right. Let's see. My mom actually, because I was younger than that, so I was probably more like 7, 8, 9. My mom babysat as a nanny kind of for a boy and girl, and I remember them being around a lot. And I would end up just taking them under my wing and doing things with them, answering their questions, and being how I am with kids. I mean, my mom was around, and that was those 2. That was a boy and girl. I remember their names. And then there was another set of 2 young boys from a well-off family my mom was babysitting. And in the summer, Now this, I must have already been 16 because I remember having my car and taking them places. So I would go to their house that was further away, and I babysat them all summer. Because I remember we'd be like, you'd catch a snake or something, and they'd ask me questions about snakes, and I'm like, okay, off we go to the library. Let's
How
go
old
get
were
some
you
books.
when you catch copperheads?
Yeah, probably 8 or 9, 10. Yeah, we had a creek behind our house. We could catch them in a 5-gallon bucket, bring them back to the house, and take the little Fisher-Price Village people, those little old wooden ones that have, you know, just a peg body with a hole, so we could shove a stick on the Fisher-Price people. And then shove the stick into the bucket to watch them open their mouth.
Wow.
My mom was deathly deaf. My mom was tough. My mom was a tough person, tough lady, but just the thought or the image or thinking you saw a snake or a shadow one or a snake in a tree just absolutely sent her over the edge. She had a visceral fear.
What was
of
the story about
snakes.
her dislocating her shoulder?
What do you mean story? That was, I mean,
I'm just like
she,
I remember you telling it to me. I feel like a lot of the like stories from like grandma that you tell in my childhood, I'm like, do I remember most of them?
it was, I mean, I already had some kids. I'm trying to think exactly between which kids it was. Maybe second brother. I don't know. Yeah, she worked for a college, a neat historic college, but then she was doing the in-between semesters, or summer. I don't know if it was summer or if it was Christmas break where the kids weren't there. And they do some deep cleaning and moving things around, and she fell off a ladder. And I guess the way you normally dislocate your shoulder, I don't remember if a shoulder normally dislocates to the front or to the back, the typical way a shoulder dislocates, hers was the opposite. So when the paramedics come, typically with a shoulder dislocation, they take the arm and gently bring it in front of the body on a sling. And the way hers was dislocated was atypical, and it was a young, newish EMT. And even though she has a very high pain tolerance, she said she screamed bloody murder, told them to stop. Just said, which, I mean, even somebody with no training, if you go to move an injured person's arm, and they are screaming bloody murder, fighting you, telling you to stop.
Yeah.
You know, you go, oh no, in our training, we're supposed to put a dislocate on this way. I'm just going to do, I mean.
Oh gosh. Okay, now I'm
seriously.
remembering because it messed her nerves.
So
in her
basically,
hand.
basically the way it was dislocated that was atypical, you know, it was forward when it's normally backwards, or backwards when it's normally forward, whichever way it dislocated to. The act of moving the arm into the position, you know, with a sling to take her to the hospital, basically took and pinched all the nerves in the shoulder there in between, to the point that the hospital was like, I mean, you could walk to it, you know. So it was probably 5 minutes from when he did that to when they get to the hospital that she says the doctor looked right at the man, the EMT, and said very seriously with wide eyes, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
Because in those 5 minutes, her hand was massively swollen. So whatever he had done to move it, it basically pinched all the nerves and blood vessels, and you know, her hand swelled up. And so from that simple dislocation, and she had incredible nerve damage, and painful nerve damage in the hand and arm, to basically the rest of her life, you had to, you know, play bodyguard around that arm. Even what movement she did recover, but, you know, of that arm and hand, it was painful if anybody bumped into it, touched it. She did lots and lots of therapy and on Neurontin and different things. And they did intense therapy for a while, and then basically told her, why don't you just take a money settlement? This is never going to get much better. Take a settlement so that we don't have to pay any more for any more therapies or further problems down the road. I know she had a thing with a hot wax bath. That for I don't know, a good year or so after, she'd have to go to therapies that were super painful, that they would get her hand in a hot wax bath and then open the hand up, and yeah, that was
Yikes. Yeah. I feel like there's stories, different little stories that you would tell in my childhood about grandma, but I can't remember most of them now. I'm like, she's gone now. I'm like, I don't have a whole lot to take away from grandma, I think.
I mean, I don't know, stories about her growing up in another country or what I knew about. And that's the thing, she didn't talk much and tell us much about her growing up.
Describe to like someone else about like relationship with grandparents, and I'm like, she never really came down to our world, like as kids, like interacting. Like she was
busy. She was always busy taking care of
making stuff, wanting, or like, well, I remember you saying like she always wanted to like dress you very pristinely.
Yeah, she's a little South American lady, and very proper, and wants things to look just right and neat and tidy, and you know, the proper way of doing things, and did not want to be seen out in public just in hanging around the house clothes. Had to be dressed nice and makeup.
You're so opposite of her.
Very, very opposite. Yeah.
Well, because like when she came from her country, it was probably more rural area, right?
Well, where she lived was very, very rural and poor, but at a very young age, she had to live kind of as help in the largest city in that country, and you know, just intermittently had back and forth contact. But see, in the little rural place they lived in, I guess she was just like that. She wanted to dress up and you know, go out to the, if she went out to the fields to take lunch or something, and she didn't like that rural life. It didn't like messiness or the dirtiness.
So when you got a farm, she was very baffled.
Yeah, she was very baffled. And I remember her being like, "Well, how do you learn this? And how did you learn to milk a cow?" And I'm like, "YouTube."
Yeah.
I mean, nobody else ever gave. But yeah,
and that was so far before her
She
time.
thought, you know, the farm life of her poor youth was very sad and pathetic. And, you know, she always thought that even as an 8-year-old there, you know, she wanted something else and better. And of course, since she was a girl, she was in a country that, you know, they didn't think that they should pay for a girl to continue schooling or go to a better school than the little tiny thing across the railroad tracks. But no, she very, very rarely talked about. I mean, I heard that she, you know, they would go to the railroad tracks and, you know, wave and gesture to them going by to throw, you know, coal out to them so they'd gather up coal to take home for their home fireplace for cooking. And potatoes, she talked about potatoes. Her mother was from a very, very wealthy family, and they owned things and owned the land, but her mother died after having her youngest full brother. Not right away, because the youngest brother was already abused, but I think she was really sick for years after having the brother. The father was from a very poor family, and so everything they had was because of the wealth and benefits of the mother's family. And they have weird laws about how the father could retain it or not, because it had to go through the mother's family. And so it was almost like he couldn't keep the farm and land after she died. It had to go through her family line's blood relatives, but it won't go to any females. And she had a sister who had a child from a not good situation years before, and that child was slightly older than all the children in the house. So in the end, he ended up marrying, I mean, she was a teenager after his wife died, ended up marrying what was the wife's sister's child produced
So
from
her
a bad
niece?
situation.
So he married his niece?
Well, yeah, it was almost more like an agreement. We have
Yeah.
to do this, a business deal.
For legal
And so
things.
that is, her stepmother. Then she had, the other siblings. And that's the one person that found us from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's her grandmother.
Okay.
Her grandmother is the one that married.
Okay, no wonder there was such an age.
Yes, that
Because that was technically your
that was a cousin. It was a first
technically
cousin.
your cousin, but she was like my age.
Yeah. And she found us. Anyway, I don't know. So I don't know stories of my mom there. So she ended up in the big city, working for people, working in like a grocery store shop. And one of the stories she would tell is the shelves had glass bottles, and sometimes a glass bottle would explode. I don't know, some kind of soda, something. And so this was in the 1960s. And if you heard a glass bottle, so you very carefully and immediately moved things to seek out the broken bottle and remove it. But I guess you're not in the store 24/7. Yeah. So there was a time when she reached up to pull a bottle off the shelf, and glass, came down. I don't know how, because, you think, okay, a broken bottle would have to get you just right, or you step on it to get badly injured. But however that worked, their setup, and which she said they took it seriously to find a broken one. Whatever their setup was, if you pulled a bottle down and there was a broken one, the way it fell was very dangerous because it gouged her arm, and she had scarring on her arm. But they just take you across the street to the butcher shop to get stitched up. So yes, they took her. She was young, and then as she got to be older teens and I guess 20s, she ended up just being fancy household help for some rich families, and like I said, I think that's where she thrived in that, because she wanted to be neat, prim, proper, everything well groomed, and so flower arrangements was her thing, and I think that was one of her responsibilities in the household. That I don't know how many there's one particular household that she would talk about, because they're the household that was an American man that was an ambassador to Colombia with a Venezuelan wife that had no kids. But so that's the one she talks about. But there must have been others, because it was like she mentioned being recommended to them. So anyway, having that, there was no children. She was not the Pied Piper of children. Children around were meant to be spiffed up, made to look perfect, dressed to a T, and be well behaved, and not ask for things. Children should not ask for things. Lord forbid that we're in the store and I ask for the Shrinky Dinks dollhouse, or I remember that specifically. Man, Shrinky Dinks are fun.
You're in Dad's life.
I don't even know half the people on here know what Shrinky Dinks are. No. You guys will have to Google it.
Wait. Do I know what Shrinky Dinks are?
Do you know what Shrinky Dinks are?
Are they the thing with like that you color
the plastic
thing and you put it in the oven?
Toaster oven, and it shrinks down and gets shiny.
I really did that a couple times.
Yeah, I have some somewhere. I ought to find them for the newest grandkids.
Do you ever feel like you're breaking the cycle? Like, people talk all the time about like breaking the cycle. Do you feel like you broke the cycle?
I hear that, and that's such a funny concept. I don't know.
I think it's more so to do with like repeated like abuse.
What are people even saying on here?
Not much yet. Things are old school.
Dealing with wine. Who knows? Well, in the South American country, yes, the bottles probably weren't wine like we have here, but a wine type beverage that was more commonly drinking all day.
Mostly just people saying hi. Hello, everyone. Hello, the Feels Chunky. Hello there, Paladin Stern. Hello there, Yuku Jamari.
Bionicles.
There's Pancakey.
The Bionicles, as in the Legos. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's Milliardo.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that the Bionicles were my kids' time. So, kid number 2 was obsessed with Bionicles. We had to get every Bionicle there was.
What was it? The Hero, whatever the Hero one was decent, and then it kind of fell off and never.
But yeah, so she was household help for this fancy family, and I know there's a story about the underwear, the ladies' underwear and bras and stuff. She was being accused of stealing the lady of the houses, who was this Venezuelan lady who was super, I guess they had probably similar personalities, you know, did not want children, wanted everything to be just right to a T. So yeah, my mom was household help, but it was like she, you know, had flowers, and she's always, through her whole life, flowers were a big thing to her, and she had quite a knack for just picking up all the discounted flowers in the 70s from, so it wasn't even kind of like discounted flowers at Kroger now are kind of nice, but she would just...
Did you know, wait, hang on a second. I heard that the flowers in most grocery stores now are like, I forget where, some other country is like, they're all preserved and shipped from some other country to the grocery stores on cheap labor.
Back when we had like the Safeway and the giant grocery store, and she would run around and get her deals for the day, because that was her other thing she was very well known for, was bartering and being a penny pincher. And she just, you know, to save, it was incredible. Even back then, my dad would say how much my mom spent for groceries in a week to his colleagues, and they were just flabbergasted, because she would pop just about every day from store to store, and she would only get things at an absolute basement bargain. She would gather flowers like crazy.
Because you were saying like her family was pretty poor, even though they kind of retained with the mother's
land. They had that land. So for somebody of my grandfather's station in life, it was very unusual for him to actually own and farm the land that they had. Yeah. But they lived very poor. You know, ate potatoes every day. You know, would beg for coal off the train that passes by. Oh, wow. And wouldn't pay for her education. They had, I think, a little schoolhouse basically across the street, across the railroad tracks or across whatever, that she could go to. And I don't know, she would tell stories of that, but she was very smart, and they told her father, you know, to send her to the school, but her father said, you know, no. And then made up all these stories about if she went over that mountain area to the city, that's where, you know, bad men hide in the mountains and bad things will happen to girls, and
to scare her from going over there.
Well, and they wouldn't pay. They wouldn't.
But she went into that city for the jobs, the help jobs. Right?
Yeah, well, that's a big city. So I mean, now when I look at the map and try to study the area, she couldn't have been going to that big city for school, or the boys couldn't have been, had been something closer, because even now in modern times, the girl that's a first cousin of mine, that she lives in the area, you know, where my mother grew up, and it's more of a town that she lives in right next to the area where she grew up. She goes into the big city for school, and it takes, you know, an hour or more on buses to go for college, you know, to the big city. So, back then in the, you know, 50s and 60s, to go to that big city, I mean, would have been quite a trek. They probably never went there. So it was probably just another village that you had to, you know, walk to. Yeah. But you had to walk over the little mountain area. Yeah.
So it was like through her sort of like help jobs with like the embassy guy that she got to the US, right?
Yeah. So I think the whole thing with the underwear it must have still been in country when that happened. Like my mom would refer to, just sometimes, you know, kind of blurt out a piece of a funny story, but she really didn't talk about her family or youth.
Well, no one really had contact with her. It wasn't until the cousin like found you on Facebook.
Well, when I was a kid, she would get mail, and there was a time when her father was still alive that it was like she should go see him, but she never did. And she always had a very dismissive, you know, there's nothing there for me. I don't ever, you know, don't want to go back and see anybody. So anyway, the underwear thing was, I guess she was being accused of stealing undergarments. And in the end, it was the lady's dog stealing them off the clothesline and burying them all over the yard.
That's so...
And she had actually been let go and fired over it.
Oh, wow.
And so she was working for somebody else. From what I understand, it's very vague. She really didn't explain this. But from the little detail, I take it that because I think that they had to after they realized it, come and beg for her to come back because of the trip back to the U.S. That they wanted her. So the Venezuelan wife had some nieces in Venezuela, and the husband, who was an ambassador, had to go back to the U.S. for a certain number of years as his little stint. I mean, they'd be going back to South America because now he was married and had ties and everything, but he was going back to the U.S., and they had decided they were taking the two nieces, and they wanted nothing to do with the care of the nieces. So they had to try to convince
This is
her
such a strange world to me.
to go with them.
To have kids as these little ornaments.
Yeah. Oh, she dolled us up. We were, as well as, especially, I have a brother that is a year and a week older than me. So we're a year and a week apart. And those two, we were absolutely her doll babies to, dress up. Other relatives, now American relatives, have mentioned, some of my aunts about how she had us so dressed to a T, and yeah, so of course,
And then there's
ambassador stuff. So I mean, we try not to say many places, but of course, that all has the centers around Washington D.C. So I will say, it's the Washington D.C. area, and yeah, she had us, in perfect fancy outfits all the time.
How old were you when you were excited that she finally let you wear pants?
I think 11 or 12 years old.
Gosh.
And we were going to something, whether it was just a simple church dinner or something we had to go to, an event we needed to go to, more so than just going to church on Sunday. But it was probably a church event. Or, I mean, it could have even been like a Boy Scout blue and gold banquet. Who knows? But I had to dress up, and I think I really played it up. I mean, I was like, it worked. I mean, I think I was finally of an age, that I was menstruating or something like that. And I think I used that as an excuse and asked if I could wear pants. But it was like a dressy pantsuit type thing. And I actually remember, because I had no problem. I've never had issues or pains or cramps or not feeling comfortable. I'm fine all my life. But, but I used it as an excuse, kind of like a kid would be like, oh, can I skip PE today? Or I'm not feeling well. And she kind of let me wear pants, which, I mean, wow, that's a big, huge thing. Wear pants instead of a skirt or dress. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, wow, that worked. I mean, I don't know. I just remember thinking I was mind blown that she was letting me wear pants.
Me, not wanting to wear any clothes.
Yeah. Little Minna. I don't even know if they can hear you over there. Yeah, little Minna. I was lucky if I had, clothes on her, or if I did get clothes on her, in shorts in the hot weather climate we lived in at the time. She would empty her drawer and then pile on like 4 pairs of shorts, and some of them 2 feet were through one hole, and then the next layer 2 feet were through two. It was a ridiculous mess up. If I had clothes on her, that was a win. And trying to touch and brush her hair was a challenge. So we had some floppy hats. Anytime we went out of the house, there was no chance to make her hair not look like a wild tornado.
Because with me, pretty much any girls that are around, you just do little braids.
Yeah, I would keep her long hair in braids. But there was times your hair, when you were really little, because you had that really fine hair. I'm thinking of you as a 2.5, 3-year-old, and had that fine blondish, hair, and you see how your kiddos' hairs will get all matted up in the back, and they're boys, so they're not extremely long. And yeah, yours would be, a big tornado mess in the back. I just throw a hat over it. And I'd have a neighbor, look at, be like, oh, I feel sad for that poor little Minna. I want to just mother her, make her hair. I was like, you want to poke the tiger? You try. You try what happens when you go at her with this hairbrush.
I was very much a gremlin.
Poor, pathetic, sad little Minna. No.
My boys take after me.
Yeah. So my mom was told if she came to the States, they would pay for everything. They would, if she wanted to go home, they would pay for everything for her to go home. If she wanted to stay, they would take care of everything legal and paperwork and money-wise for her to stay. And did she only go back one? Yeah, she stayed, and she didn't even ask to go back, you know, as her obligation was ending and stuff, or she didn't even go back for a visit. From my understanding, she went back one time before she got married, which I don't know how long she was, because, I mean, her obligation with them must have been over because she was answering ads in the paper for being household help. And she ended up being household help for my very sick great-grandmother that was in the house homebound. And so she was in the home of my dad being household help. So I guess she just kind of stayed. I don't know if it wasn't too many years that she was here before she met, but she went back home one time. And but I guess to her, you know, there was nothing there for her. She gathered some things and actually had a custom wedding dress made. That's the one really sad part, you know.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, she had a very custom wedding dress done. And of course it had to be shipped. And they're in the Washington, D.C. area. And my dad had gotten notice that it had arrived at the post office. And he didn't go right away for whatever reason. And when he did go to collect it, they couldn't find it. The trunk was gone. Somebody took it, stole it. And so,
yeah, did you get
yeah, she got another wedding dress. Which, the thing is that wedding dress is still around. My mom wore it for a wedding. She had it, the shortish kind of sleeves with the lace ends. She had like a sheer thing all the way down long. And she had a sheer thing on the neck. And then she saved it, and when I was getting married, you know, I don't have that much dress up in me, or, you know, particularness about loving to find an outfit, or, you know, I don't do outfits. And so I guess it kind of worked in favor that, you know, for me getting married, you need a wedding dress, you know. A wedding dress just that looks fine and works is good enough for me. I wasn't particular about any dream style wedding dress or going and looking at it. I never tried on wedding dresses. I never had any. I had no impulsion. It was just, that's the wedding dress there.
Wedding dress there, that's good.
You know, of course we got it out and had somebody tailor it to me a little bit.
Because you had it like, yours was like, you took the sheer stuff off like the sleeves and up the neck.
So and I had kind of a hat type thing with a veil that was my cousin's. I was just fine for my wedding to just, you know, whatever anybody wants to help do and provide, and if it works, it works, you know, so I wasn't picky, you know. Then it was like, oh, you know, we got to have a reception. Well, you know, the little tiny goofy town that we lived in, they had a little community building, you know, we rent that for $50. And, you know, then everybody offered, like, you know, Aunt so-and-so was like, oh, I go to Costco and get meatballs. I can make this and that. So I let people just make the food. I didn't pick. I was like, I don't know. They did food.
Yeah. Because down there was a large majority of Dad's side of the family, extended family down there.
Yeah.
And then I got to wear the dress. And then I had my maid of honor. We, like, kind of took the lace apart a little bit and, like, changed the shape and, like, I added back some sheer long sleeve things, but she had fun geeking out over like the old lace as she was like taking apart.
So we have that dress, which is great, but I just always feel like, oh, what if we had the one custom, from Colombia? Yeah. I mean, what was it? What happened to it? Where did it go? What did it even look like? You know, I don't know. My mom didn't ever really speak of it. It was only kind of my dad mentioning it. That and knowing how my dad is with procrastination, and my dad just does not attend to things. He doesn't, you know, take care of bills, take things. He just, I don't know. Then he doesn't attend to things like he should. Never did. And so I'm sure it was a bit of a, you know, why did you not go get it? You know, what even stopped you? Why not just go get it right away? There was no reason not to. And Yeah, so then it just wasn't there. So he just was like, oh yeah, somebody probably realized it was valuable and just stole it there at the post office. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
There's I don't know, my dad always was full of excuses for everything, and the type that could never make anything be his fault. And he's really good at rewriting history. Like, I don't know, things that I know have happened and gone on, and then I hear him talk about it later, I'm like, that is not, he will fabricate a complete story of what happened to appease his own inner self, and so that he can feel like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. Something in different one, but
oh.
And then
why are we talking about pockets, little Minna?
Pockets.
Oh, well, pockets and little Minna. Well, I see pockets in a comment and little Minna. Little Minna and pockets was such a thing that when you were like barely 3 years old, I had to make you an apron to wear around.
I was thinking Polly Pockets and everything.
Oh yeah, we had Polly Pockets, but yes, we we had lots of Polly Pocket stuff that I would find at yard sales and stuff. I never bought anything new for you guys toy wise.
I know, yeah, I know.
I never bought toy. Well, other than Legos. I mean, Legos got bought. Legos got bought a lot.
I feel like I feel so like I'm spoiling the kids when I buy them like an actual new toy or stuff, or like the Ultraman thing I let.
But little Minna was obsessed with pockets and the stuff that she would have in pockets and scissors. Little Minna, even at 3 or 4 years old, always had scissors in an apron pocket. That apron is really cute, it's kind of a yellow floral and some satiny purple trim and everything. And that one also saved me for trying to get her out of the house and looking decent to go to church.
You could just throw
I would just put the apron over top of, because really cute and frilly and yeah, she would be wearing who knows what, if hardly anything underneath. And yeah, most of the time she had layers of like, soft little girl shorts on, and no shirt around the house or outside. And I could just throw that little apron on her and one of the 2 floppy hats we had. And as long as nobody touched her, don't touch her, because, oh yeah, she was snarly.
Okay, I'm seeing a little bit of Kiddo in... I see a bit of me in Kiddo now. he is... Well, he's more particular. He's... Yeah. I don't know. He's got... I don't know.
You didn't like men when you were little, and you're this cute little thing, and a man, you would, I mean, no, not in a way of sensory overload that you were, not being touched. It was more like, I'm a little animal, more like Dough Baby is being a little beast, like, attack you. And,
okay, but, no, I think I think there's a lot of Milliardo in Kiddo, and then I think there's a lot of me and Dough Baby. Just even in our like features and a little bit of our personalities.
We would be somewhere sitting in line, waiting in a doctor's office, and you'd be looking there, and yeah, you had, because we've seen some pictures of you that had that more, smooth, angelic little face like his, and, just beautiful little girl. And if somebody would just stop and look at you, or try to catch you in there and talk to you, you would literally like look up, get death glare and then snarl, just look at them, not even say anything, just snarl like an animal at them. Yeah. If it was a man, you would not have anything to do with men interacting
so weird
with you. And then it was funny,
or I'd want to take pictures but then like hide my face.
The little boy that was born after you, he was so funny from a tiny age, just light up and be enamored about men, and especially men with beards. And we were at like the Holy Land experience, and he was like 9 months old. And so there's all these, men going around in big beards and looking like Jewish Jesus time thing. And he just was lit up, loving, reaching for everybody, just happy and cooing, and just baby talk, nonstop. He was hilarious around men with beards.
So did Dad have a beard a lot at that time?
I doubt it. No, he didn't. He didn't have a...
Yeah.
He hardly ever, kept a beard then.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else about Grandma? Grandma came to this country, and like I said, she's all about, like, serious and all about business, and, like, gotta find the classes, gotta learn the language. And she just really didn't hold much space for her culture or for language or whatever.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of like, man, there's like, I don't feel much of a connection to that side. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like the recipes
she spoke it to us when we were, up until we went to school, up until 5. I guess she spoke it to us, and, I understand it. It seems natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a common language that everybody takes in high school. So to me in high school, it was like, yeah, it makes sense. But I never spoke it.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned it some. But my dad did not ever learn a single word of the language. So it wasn't spoken at home.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I kind of know it. And I would
like,
love to go explore that country and go try to find. I know where some people are. The one person that we had direct contact with does not respond anymore, but I'm like, I can go there. I can find them. I remember sitting there looking at the map and zooming into her town of where the shops are. I was like, I can go find them.
Yeah.
It's not a dangerous country, but it's not the safest. You gotta be careful. Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I need to just, and I'm on some groups on Facebook.
You got some grown sons. Take them with you.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe the youngest one.
Yeah, I could see that.
He can look like he's part of the
like tall and intimidating.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting. Like Milliardo's family, one of his grandparents is, well, he was born in the States, but he's from Japan, and there seems to be much more connection there. Like his relationship with his grandparents is a lot closer than I ever had with any of mine. And there's like they've got like the mochi pounding and stuff, and then like with grandma, like I remember her around, and I'm trying to think.
Yes, we would go visit,
and
she was always very businesslike. She would have spent the whole week before making chili, making things. Having.
She would always make like tea, sweet tea, chili. I guess plantains.
But even just while we were visiting, it was all about have to cook, have to clean the kitchen, have to do all the things to take care of the house, and not just come
all
hang
put together.
You.
Yeah, no,
she
never.
Would some. She would
I think there was once. I think there was once. When I was like a little bit older and they were still living up in that area, that she like took me to the side and she gave me and like showed me this nice little nativity set that like the sort of barn area was like a coconut and had all these little people, and it was made in like this little village. And I still have that, and it may be like packed away in storage, but I think she like took me aside and like showed it to me and like gave it to me. But yeah, most of the time she was just around, and visits to grandparents mostly remembered like, oh, their house and playing with the toys there, and then going and doing stuff with
the
you
park.
around, go with you around the area.
The she went down to the park area with us.
But she never got down into our world ever.
No, she didn't. Yeah,
never like got down to really engage or play. Just kind of around.
Yeah, and as a kid, my, perception of her and, what a parent is just, the one that makes all the rules and makes everything happen, and you don't question, you don't ask for a specific thing to eat, you don't ask for a toy, everything is already set in place in motion, and it's rock solid, it's, you're just in lockstep.
Couldn't imagine.
But, yeah.
So so this gives a good background of what you grew up with, and now it's a total 180 to my experience of growing up with you.
Yes, when I had you guys up there to visit her, so much, oh my gosh, awful things I let the kids do, like blow bubbles in their milk with a straw. She would just, or, let them get up from the table, while we were still eating, there was still food. Because little Minna,
I don't know.
You were like a little wind-up whirly toy, just around in circles. And so even at home, I mean, there's food on the table, and you hardly sat still. It would be like, eat some food, run off, come back, another round. You would literally run laps around places, and never still. And so the other set of grandkids is sitting there. Having to
check on kiddo.
Yeah, kiddos moving
around.
The other set of, cousins are sitting there being told, you can't get up from the table until you take 3 more bites. I'm just not doing that. I would try to temper things and get my kids that were old enough, the boys, to kind of chill and not make the other grandkids feel bad. I would get them to chill and wait, and I don't know, but little Minna, I wasn't controlling that little
I know that's
whirling dervish.
Like, if I don't know, the children you're dealt You gotta work with them.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier that, you know, me and my brother that are a year apart, were just her little doll babies. And then there was one that came, I think, 3 years after me. He's 3 years younger than me, I think. And was a more challenging, sensitive, you know, and probably would have been a bit like how Kiddo is with sensory needs and everything, and totally unmet and in a stressful environment. And so he became her sole focus of trying to help him and take care of him. And he definitely was not, you know, one that she could just dress up and parade around. He had a lot of struggles and troubles, and even as a kindergarten first grader, trying to get him out the door and go to school, he probably had a lot of meltdowns and sensitivities, and she didn't really get much help with him. So what does anybody say? A leash kid. I never put you on a leash. That's because I used your older brother as a leash. Mm-hmm. So yes, I would literally go into the grocery store, you know, and if you were the oldest brother was 5 years older than you. So if it was 2-year-old Minna and 7-year-old, you know, my big kid, Vinny. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Vinny's was a funny little kid, and he's, you know, odd in a lot of ways like Kiddo, but he was very mature. Yeah. What is it? That tism is strong with this group.
Yeah. Anyway, at some point I have like my own questions to ask you.
Vinny was very capable, you know, and for even a 5, 6, 7-year-old. And now we'd walk into a store, and the only way to successfully get through the grocery store was the little whirling dervish of a Minna, you know, was just on the move. And I would tell Vinny, follow her, don't lose her, and try not to let her, you know, stop or be still in any one place, because then she would wreak havoc on whatever shelf she was at.
I see why my brothers say I was little Mai.
Yeah, so he was just really good at engaging. He was just good with kids. I mean, he was, you know, you were his second sibling. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he had the first one when he was only 3 years old. And by the time that one was 6 months old, he was like, when can we have another baby? You know, and he liked to engage with them, and you know, he can be creative and engage with them and catch their attention. So now Vinny would I would be in the grocery store, and I just keep an ear out. I could hear them a couple aisles over, and you know, he wasn't just antagonizing or chasing or following like, hey, like most kids would do. He was, in a kid way, guiding and entertaining her, but keeping things, you know, going and keeping her from like stopping and destroying anything.
And kind of thinking of like big families and siblings and stuff, I had the realization of like your experience with like Vinny as a fairly like helpful, you know, what there was like, he was like 6 when there was the 3 of us and onward, or when the youngest boy was a toddler and he was like a young teen, and he would like, you know, swing him around in a suitcase. Oh,
he would just take him and strap him to a baby bike seat and go for a long bike ride. Or, he would, you know, wrap him up in a pillowcase and, you know, hold him and then just swing him around.
And so,
well, even as a baby, as the little tiny babies, he would take the infants, you know, in their first month or 2 of life when I'm trying to get something done. And, you know, he was an expert, you know, even at 5, 6 years old, of cradling, you know, and carrying newborn babies. It would freak people out. I would let him carry newborn babies in and out of restaurants, around church, and, you know, and he looked casual and could even kind of one-arm stuff and still be supporting the head like a big person. They're like, everybody thought it was a baby doll, and they'd freak out. But he would take, while I was trying to cook dinner or whatever, he would go over to a piano, you know, cradling a baby with one arm, and, you know,
he's pretty musical.
And playing something, and he would keep them calm. He would keep a baby calm. You know, I'm talking about like a 1-2 month old for me.
People talk a lot now about like, oh, you can't, parentify children. But I'm like, to me, that's a totally different realm of like, instead of like you're helping and in a more natural ebb and flow of like siblings and kids. You know, that's one thing to have a big family where there's ebb and flow, kind of helping out, you know. And then it's different when it's like you're responsible for this kid, sibling.
I mean, there was times when you and a cousin, and we had, littlest boy, crazy littlest boy, and then cousin's littlest sister, and they were literally a week apart.
Yeah.
And they were toddlers, and we had them both together. And yes, as we go out of the house, if you guys started chatting too much, I'd be like, hey, your job, I'd point to Minna, and then point to her little brother. It's like, that's your job. Point to cousin and her little sister, that's your job.
Yeah.
And
you guys watch them. We still had plenty of time where we weren't like responsible for them.
And your jobs need to not be mingling too much, because you guys are chatting and your two little jobs, is sitting there. Then the little brother, I don't know, what do we call him? Number 4.
What's it?
I don't know.
Oh, hang on.
He was the male version of Minna.
Bean. He's Bean.
Yeah, Bean was the male version of Minna. All that energy and that chaoticness, but with a little bit sharper,
with a little
edge
boy
of a little testosterone edge. I'm gonna get you. So even as a toddler, those two big, those two 12-year-olds that are supposed to be, oh no, you weren't 12 then, because you were 12.
I'm 2 years older than the cousin, right?
Oh.
And sister hadn't been born,
you're
so
only,
I was
okay, because you're 4 years older than Bean, huh?
No, I'm 4 years older than
that one.
No.
So you're 7 years older.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're like 9. You guys weren't 12. You were like 8 and 9 years old, or 8 and 10 years old, because they're probably 2-year-olds. But anyway, I don't know. You guys were 10 and under, and we'd be out. But the whole parentified thing is more when the mom isn't even in the sphere of overseeing.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, I'm busy doing other things. It's your job to get this kid up, feed this kid, dress this kid, and make sure they're,
Yeah.
But now,
totally different.
We would be all together in a library or something, but I would tell you, that one is your job, and that one is your job. And when you guys stand together, chit-chatting and mingling with your little jobs running around at your feet, then little Bean was going to get this glint in his eye and get closer and closer, and then just randomly do something to her, because she was super pathetic and weak and wimpy, and he just ate that up like constantly. That was his cup of tea.
He was very, very much in for the reactions. He's always. I
mean, and he wouldn't be super malicious. He wouldn't, go for actually, hurt and hit, because he would do stuff to what's his older brother's name?
Milk Dud.
Milk Dud. He would do stuff to Milk Dud. But, and then if Milk Dud felt threatened and lashed out, then yes, Milk Dud would actually hurt, hit. And so little Bean, he never, even to other little kids or whatever, he would do just enough to, knock them down, antagonize them, be mean. But he wasn't, mad. He wasn't attacking any other kids. He wouldn't, sit there and bash and, attack. It was just a game to him. And he always had control. He never like wrestling with Dad. Oh yeah, he could do it and wrestle and whatever. Milk Dud was the type a little bit more timid, and so if in a situation like that and he felt threatened, he would actually lash out for real, because he would be like
Oh man, Dough Baby, when we were back home for so long, Dough Baby had so much fun with Bean, because Bean would like he was well,
Bean scares all the other, even the other boy grandkid at home, because Bean comes walking up and he'll kind of, do a squat jump in front of you, like, ha ha, like, come on. And all the other kids are like, ew, that's scary.
And little Dough Baby's like, oh
yeah, bring on.
He's been fighting you since you've been here.
Yeah, it's just a battle. He says, battle in your bed. I got a floor bed, and oh yeah.
He wants to wrestle, fight. There's one week where he was constantly coming at me with a foam sword, but they hurt when you actually hit hard with it. So I had to make a rule that he can't come fight me unless I'm also armed.
He tells me, no scratching faces. I'm like, yes, don't scratch my face. No poking eyes. Don't poke my eyes.
They're crazy. But yeah, thinking of like big families, and I was telling Mom, I realized with the way Kiddo is, I'm like, I'm gonna have a much different experience of my progression of my hopefully big family growing, since Kiddo's it's gonna be a lot longer before he's at the point where he can be helpful with other siblings.
The Kiddo's more of the, persuasion, like Milk Dud was, just the la little Peter Pan of a not really grow up and kind of a bit oblivious, like when happy, then which Okay, Milk Dud was more pervasively happy than Kiddo is,
Okay.
but that's just another thing.
Kiddo feels things very strongly in many directions.
We called Milk Dud the happiest little grumpy baby because I don't know, he was fun and easy because all the other kids have been closer together, and especially Minna and the one above her had been really close together. And I
feel like I'm the reason you're telling me not to rush into the third one.
Well, it didn't happen. What's the second one's name?
The second one's Rocky.
Oh,
we were only 18 months apart.
Yeah, well, a little more than that, but Rocky's,
definitely the closest age gap.
It was more, Rocky was having issues and sensitivities and medical stuff and being super needy and falling apart, and then having you and you were a bit colicky and clingy for a good while.
Well, we were talking about the other day, it was either I was just like didn't really want anything to do with you, or it'd be really whiny for you.
Yeah. So so I would have just the two of them just on either side, just constantly crying. I'd just sit there and be like, anybody could be a stand-in for me at this point. I might as well have a babysitter or something to just sit here, because what good am I doing them if they're both just sitting there?
But as soon as someone else was around, it still wouldn't be the same as mom. It's what was it what's it like being? Well, even now you're a celebrity. What's it like being a celebrity where like all these little people just orbit you? You're always the favorite.
Yeah, and then even our friend had the little boy that you used to hold when you were...
Oh, yeah, when I was, like, an older teen, and she'd come over with a little baby, and I'd just come and steal the baby.
She had a little girl the same time you had...
Kiddo.
Mm-hmm. So she still had another little one come along. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, that little one got obsessed with me, because we're just good friends. I mean, so back when Minna, was a preteen, she already had 3 girls that are good buddies with whatever we call
chicken tender.
Yeah, they're good buddies with chicken. They still are. They're just like a squad. They're all very close in age, and so they would be over. They were like little preschoolers and kids running around, and she had a little boy, and Minna would be like, "Oh, they're here," and go steal the baby.
Yeah, steal the baby.
But
go hold
then now she had a little girl a little bit later, so same age as Kiddo, and. Yeah, since now these girls are all teenagers and around, and of course my house is like the house of the kids. So the boy now, is grown, but he's actually really small. Like he's actually 10 now, but he hasn't grown. It's almost like he really hasn't grown. So now that the girl, like Kiddo, is 5 years old. I mean, they're almost the same size. So it's almost like, even though these two kiddos are 5 years apart, that boy and girl, they really have been each other's buddy and playmate. And so those two, sometimes I'll babysit them, or they just beg to stay at my house or whatever.
Or
that friend says, yeah, my house is she tells other people, my house is the one house I can just always just show up in. I can just leave my kids there. And she's just fine with it. It doesn't matter. I can just leave my kids. So sometimes these ones, even though they don't have a friend at my house to play with, they're just like, I just want to stay here.
Or, you can come or my other friend that's a single mom with her 3 boys. And those, of course, boys will love to come over and hang out.
Yeah, I'm like grandma to them. They have a grandma name, a different grandma name than the other kids call me. But the little girl, she had gotten, about the time she was 3.5, 4, that she was rejecting her mom if I was around. It was hurting her feelings. She's like, you want me? You want her more than me?
Well, when I was staying at the farm and I would go over to Rocky's house for the spare room over there, and so, like, it started to be like I would try and leave the farmhouse to go over there to sleep, and Doe Baby would refuse to go with me.
Yeah, and then you would leave to go out to the car, and he'd be like, ha, ha, ha. I'd be holding him, and he's like, yay, got her to leave. I get to stay. And then Minna might walk back in the house to get something, and little Doe Baby, his tiny little hand holding up, like, stop, going, no, 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 don't come back. Don't come back, Mama. Don't get me. I want...
He's so cute.
I want my... Yeah.
Yeah, nice sitting with me.
Yeah. Well, where else have we gone with anything?
I guess we should get to the questions. We were chatting. One big difference when I had just Kiddo and talking to you. They are, yeah.
Squishy. What body part is squishy? There's lots of squishy arms and cheeks.
Oh yeah, he loves to squish my arms and cheeks lately. Of like, even when you had your first, you weren't really just you and him, because you would have a baby, you would do babysitting gigs.
Yeah.
So it was never just like one kid around. There was always multiple kids.
Yeah, I had a bunch of, because
so then when I was struggling, like, what do I do with like when it's just me? And you're like, well, I don't know.
I had two different families that I had, during the week or be at their houses, and I had a nephew that was a year and a half older than my oldest, and didn't have the greatest family life, and so that nephew pretty much had already become mine before, even while I was pregnant. And so now that I was home, my in-laws, the grandparents, pretty much pawned him off on me full time. So, I had my first kid, and he had an instant older brother.
Yeah.
And then during the day, I babysat for a family that had a slightly older boy and a little girl the same age. So we don't have any of those. But I had my oldest, we would go places like McDonald's, and I had the little girl and him, and we would like pull into, and I would stick each one in like a little moving high chair, and then just roll around the restaurant pushing them. Or we'd go to the park, and they'd have the little bucket swings, and I'd put them in back to back and just, swing them. But yeah, it looked like for about the first 10 months of his life, I was with them all the time, and so it looked like I had a set of twins and a little boy running around.
Yeah.
And then if I was home, there was the other kiddo that went everywhere with me.
Okay, yeah.
I guess even when oldest was a baby and it was Easter,
It's not ready yet.
I was gonna do Easter baskets.
Okay.
So we made our own little Easter baskets, and I was setting stuff up, and so little nephew then, of course, was like, "Oh no, I just want to stay here. I want to spend the night here. I want to wake up Easter morning here."
Yeah.
So yeah, we always
kids around.
had them.
So many times there's just extra kids.
But yeah,
Or you went on to like it makes me laugh when you went to Shingatink. And it was like, you could have been like, oh, a mom's dream, go on vacation by myself, do whatever I want. And then you're like, because
oh, know what? I'll fix it.
sister was in like summer camp during that week. And so instead of being like, oh, I'll just take my own nice solo trip, Mom was like, I still want an adventure buddy. I'll find my friends, bring my friend's kid who's up for waking up at like 5 a.m. to walk to the beach. So it was like, oh, she could go on a trip by herself. Nope, she's taking someone else's kid.
Yeah, it was that same friend that has the three girls. That one girl is a year and a half. No, one girl is exactly a year older than my daughter, and one is 6 months younger, and then another is 2 years younger. So those three girls themselves are all a year and a half apart, and my daughter's kind of in the middle. So it was almost a joke of them. The middle girl is the horse crazy and more adventuresome one, and I was hypothetically talking about, I could just show up on Shingatink during pony swim. I could just, what's stopping me from getting in my car and driving a lot of hours? It is. I don't know if I'm supposed to say how many hours we live away from there, but it's a lot. It's a long drive. And I was like, there's nothing stopping me because, my daughter's going to be at camp that week. And she's the one that usually, her stamina and energy level doesn't last for me to go do adventures.
I can't
stuff.
keep up with your energy level. I don't know how you do it.
Even this past couple weeks.
This past
I've
couple
got
weeks.
a slightly broken ankle that I'm walking around on, so I'm not so fast.
Yeah, we've been exploring a lot of the island finding stuff, and like this hasn't been too bad. Having another adult helps so much.
We're going at kiddos' pace.
Yeah.
Yes, we have plans. But even every step of our plan usually takes an hour longer than we intended, because we're going at their pace and not stressing them out.
Yeah, but like when I was back at the farm and all 5 grandkids together and just do and keep going, I'm like, I don't know. If you're not around, it's very easy for me to be like, I'm tired. I don't want to do anything else.
But I made this plan like, hey, I could go. And so to this friend, that obviously we've been friends for a long, long time. These kids are teenagers now and been around since they were like 3 and 4 year olds. And I said, hey, I should take your middle daughter with me. I was just saying, I should go to this, but yeah, I should just grab your kid. And then I just kind of said that. And later that evening, she texted me and said, I hope you were serious because I told her that and she is losing her mind running around the house. And I was like, well, I guess I'm taking. So the whole time we were up there, they'd be like, I was like, I didn't bring my own 13-year-old daughter, but I brought her, you know.
Or having some of those friends, it was that friend's little boy and the two granddaughters, and who else? And then it was your friend's two youngest, and then your two granddaughters at like Peppa Pig Land, right? Where it's like you're there with all these kids.
Because that friend, you know, we went down there and with all her kids. So she has the two little ones and her three big girls. Plus we grabbed a niece of mine while we were down there, and she was a big girl. And I had my big girl, so that ended up being 5 big girls. And I had my 2 granddaughters. So that, we had 5 big girls and 4 little kids. And we've been doing things together in that theme park. But then one day, they all packed up in the morning and took my van and drove to Busch Gardens for the day. So then I had 2 2-year-olds.
2 4?
No, because he's little. He looked like a 4-year-old. But I had 2 2-year-olds, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old. But the 6-year-old, you know, looks little. Yeah. But I mean, he was good. He was a bit helpful. Yeah. And I just kind of pushed. Of course, he was walking, and then of the other 3 little ones, you know, I'd have to take turns carrying one and let the other 2 ride in the double stroller, and you know, just went and did a theme park. And then I was like, oh,
that was a fairly small, like, little kid area, kind of attached to the bigger theme park. But then it's like,
to ride a ride, you need a grown-up. And so, actually, the 4-year-old and 6-year-old, the 4-year-old's kind of big for her age, and she's very brave,
yeah,
she'll ride.
She's into it.
You know, first time I took her to Legoland, you know, she was like 4 years old, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, we'll take you on the little wooden train thingy that goes around in a circle. She'd been hearing that. And then we walked past the Coastersaurus, which is an old school big wooden roller coaster. She thought that was the wooden train thing that goes in a circle I was talking about. And she wanted to go on it. And she's the type that'll be like, yes, I'm doing something. You're not going to change her mind. And then she might completely, you know, freak out. So I don't know. I told my daughter that was with me, I was like, go ahead, take her. I don't know. I'll sit here at the stroller with the little ones. And they didn't come back, and they didn't come back, and they didn't come back. And I was kind of wondering. And evidently, you know, she loved it so much she didn't want to get off, and they let her just stay on and ride it like 4 times in a row.
Gosh.
And was it that next time we were down was when you were with us, and Vinny and everybody was with us. And we actually all went.
Did I have?
Yeah, you had.
The first one? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember. Because we had the big... Yeah, we had the big,
You were pregnant. You were just pregnant with the baby.
Yeah.
And, so we had gone to, you know, Busch Gardens, and she was begging to go on every roller coaster, and she went on upside down ones, but, yeah. Where were we
Do you have any other funny, because, you were there with, like, the 3 kids, or the 4 kids, and someone's like, hands full in the
We're in there, and it's like, you know, my littlest granddaughter is very timid, so she wasn't going to talk to strangers. My friend's little girl is more outgoing, so we'd be in line.
She's very talkative.
And most of the time, she was talking at under 2 years old. Like, you would walk up, and she would just start a full-on conversation about her chicken out in the yard, and what its name was, and what she was doing, and very clear and articulate. That kid could just talk like a full-on 7-year-old before she was 2. It was hilarious. She was like 18 months old. But we would be in line, and you know, in a little Peppa Pig Land, you usually have mommy and daddy and 1 or 2 kids, and so it was really easy in line. I pretty much just, every time we were in line for a ride, just asked some random adult near us, you know, can you take this kid with you on the ride? And we managed to do, you know, it was afternoon time, getting super hot, and I put them all in strollers, and there's a splash pad there, so we had been playing in the splash pad, so they had their swimsuits on, and we walked, it's kind of a long walk through that parking lot back to the hotel, and then went straight through the lobby and straight out the back to where the pool was. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just park the stroller here, and we're going to play at the pool. So my oldest granddaughter and the boy or buddied up playing everywhere. I'd watch them go up and down slides or whatever. But my oldest granddaughter can kind of get a very strong-willed bug in her head. I think every single place I've taken her, done something with, I lose that kid. Bad.
A lot of times she'll just disappear.
She has an idea of her own, and she's enacting, and she's doing something.
But then when it goes wrong and she realizes she's lost her away from you, then she melts down and pouts.
No, she's never melted down for being lost. She's always been super confident.
I thought she gets like pouty.
There's
the one time I was with you and she like ran off and we're like, where'd she go? And then she was sitting on a bench and she was pouting.
Oh yeah, she does. When she tries to get away, she does go. She switches from la 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 la, I'm silly happy, to total pout. To like right back to to being la 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 happy go lucky. But nah, we were in the pool, and then I got the two little ones, and they were 2 years old, so they were in swim diapers, and I realized one had a really nasty swim diaper, and I'm like, I saw the other two going up a slide. I saw them together at some steps near where I was at the thing, and I think she got a bug in her head that she didn't see where I was. And I asked her later, I was like, well, how did you get up? Well, we're in a pool area with locked gates. And she's like, oh, an adult just opened the gate and let me out. But yeah, she disappeared on me and she went into the hotel.
Well, if you act confident, like tiny me went up that water slide.
Oh yeah. It's actually at the same place.
Yes,
that place used to be Cypress Gardens. I lost little Minna and I had Milk Dud as an infant. He was like weeks old, so you would have been 4. And in a little tiny bikini, and I lost you. I had no idea where you were. When we finally hunted you down, and you were over at a place where you got to go to the lifeguard, get the mat, climb up the stairs, go down slides, give the mat back, go back. She didn't meet the height requirement. You didn't, and they just were letting you do
like
this
the teenage
over and
worker
over again. And we finally found her, and we said something. They're like, "Oh, well, she acted like she belonged and knew what she was doing."
I was very confident and independent as like a 2-year-old me running off at like the 4th of July festival and stuff like that.
Yeah, but yeah. So the little oldest granddaughter at 4, we're there at the pool, and she disappeared on me. I've got one in the stroller to contain it. The one that's all poopy, I've got kind of, I wasn't going to be able to gather everybody up and go to the little outdoor bathroom stall. Yeah. So then I've got one standing up, kind of holding a towel to block the view, and then other one-handed cleaning up a yucky pool up. So as I'm glancing up, I don't see the other girl with the boy on the steps at that end of the pool anymore. I'm like, where did she go? So I'm finishing up, ask him, he doesn't know. We look all over, she is not there. And you have to go into the lobby of the hotel. Then there's the main part of the hotel, but we weren't staying in the main part of the hotel. You got to go in a connecting hallway, and then you come to a pirate play area and a bar and a restaurant. And then but 4-year-old her, who's always, super into detail about what's our room number. I get the key. I have to find stuff. She knew our room number. Mm-hmm. So I actually got as far as the play area of the second part of the hotel, and I parked the 2 little kids with the 6-year-old at a play area, and I asked the 6-year-old, please just, stay here with it, because it was slow going, and let me just run around a minute and try to find her. And yeah, she had gone to the right hotel room door and had sat there and was all pouty and crying and everything. I asked her later if anybody saw her, because I quizzed her. How did you get out of the pool area? How did you open the doors of the hotel? These helpful adults just helped her along every step of the way. And then I asked if anybody saw her sitting outside the room, and she says, yes, she's all emotional. And I was crying, and he just smiled at me and waved, and I'm thinking, this man probably thought she was set there in timeout or something. Maybe we opened the hotel room door and set her outside. But of course she couldn't get in. But
But was it when you had all of them and someone was like, oh, lots of kids, and you're like, yeah, none of them are
We were in a Buc-ee's one time, and I didn't have any of my own kids with me. I did have grandkids, and I had several other people's kids, and we had big and little and everything, and I get asked, is this a daycare group all the time? And I'm like, no, And then I look around and pause a minute. I go, matter of fact, I got 7, 8 kids, and not a single one of them is mine. Why?
The grandkids kind of technically are.
Well, when you started to say, like, oh, when she went to Chincoteague, I didn't realize you were going to start talking about me taking my friend's kid. Thought it was like this last time I went, I had a month to go chill up there.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, I could have done a lot of grown-up stuff. But for half of the trip, I had all 3 of the little grandkids up there because, of course, they have to go and play too. They want to have fun. And then there's
total opposite of your mom.
There's a family that we know that vacations there, and they brought their godkids that I didn't really know, little Chinese girls from Brooklyn, New York. And so, the entire week. No. Well, I had the grandkids for 2 weeks, but then the other people were just there for a week. So the entire week that they were there, every morning, the other family would just be like, hey, the girls are ready for you to come get them. And so we would leave our little house and go down the road and pick up those girls. And it was a good trade-off, though, because I could just pull into their house any time of day or late in the evening, and there was a spread of food on the table.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my hardest things with running around with kids is I'm not functionally organized, and have it all together. We are just having fun and flying by the seat of our pants. And feeding kids is ugh, they need to be fed again, and I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan to feed them.
I get hung up on that a lot, especially since Doe Kiddo doesn't
Minna
do well
tries to make the plan.
I
don't even try. I was like, why? It doesn't work anyway, so why even?
I try.
But,
I did it yesterday. I managed pretty well, where if I'd been more organized, I would have prepped the stuff before we went to church. But after church, I ran back home because it's down the street, and quickly I put rice on before we left church, and then I quickly made ground beef for a little taco rice, and then cut up some stuff and threw some bowls together for a poke bowl. And so then when we went to some festival stuff afterwards, it's okay, at least we had a decent little lunch, so that we're not just trying to grab a bunch of festival food to see what the kids might eat. So I sort of managed that, but I'm well, we've been talking about with me and the kids here of I need to get out of the house as much as possible.
See, when you were up yesterday morning and we did stream instead of laying back down, if you had made all the food then,
I know,
put it in a cooler, then there wasn't the break in the middle of the day of trying to.
Yeah. I need to get.
If you're doing that on your own with the kids and going out, you got to do it in the morning.
I know. I have to be up before them, prep everything, so that way, once they're up. But
Well, see, I was the lazy way, which you can't. Well, you could do it because I do it with chicken tender, just with a different type of bread she can have. But yes, I guess it was very common that as we walk out the door, I just grab, a plastic grocery bag.
We did a lot of PBJ.
I throw a loaf of bread in. I throw, a jar of peanut butter, a jar of jelly, a knife, a plastic knife, grab some apples and oranges and water bottles, and we're out the door. And a box of granola bars.
Yeah.
And anytime, and we would go out the door a lot of times without a plan. We might be back home at 2 or 3 o'clock. We might be back home at 8 or 9 o'clock. I don't know.
Now I think.
And it's they're hungry. I just throw them food at them. Yeah. But we did not buy food out ever.
Well, there was a lot of us too.
Yeah, we did not stop and buy food out, and there
wasn't any Lawsons.
I know there's no convenience stores.
The Lawsons are pretty good. I'm thinking now of when we would smuggle food into Six Flags, and you would take the clean diapers and you'd stick granola bars in between them.
Well, what would really work is the Camelback water backpack. You got your little Camelback. There's a backpack with a bladder for water, and I could throw all the food down into the bladder. Nobody's going to see it.
Security,
then we get past security. Then we take the food out of the bladder, and then we go to a fountain and fill up our water.
We nicknamed you Shady Mom for a while because you do little things like that.
Yeah, Shady Mom, and then the other, that's when I'm getting around the rules. And then when I'm doing stuff that's not so safe, you guys call me Sketchy Mom.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we should get to some of the questions.
I haven't hurt the little one. No, I haven't.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, even with all her craziness.
I got you, but
you haven't. Oh, you're saying you haven't heard. I thought you were saying you haven't heard.
My Sketchy Mom stuff. I get us in some pickles. I get us in some serious pickles.
You do something.
Adventures no, what am I gonna do? And then I end up leaving you on a playground outside of a bar on the beach while I get to the road and hoof it back to go get the car because we're too far to walk anymore.
Was that
That was down when we had cousin. I'm thinking of when we were down in Panama City, and we had cousin, and we had little ones, and
because
Bean got sliced open on his knee.
Yes,
I mean, he hadn't been sliced open on his knee yet, but we go on a long beach walk.
Yeah.
And don't have the plans of, we actually have to turn around and get back the other way. And it was very late, and nobody was going to walk anymore. And it was, so I found a playground outside of some restaurant and bar.
Well, I mean, at that point, I was, at least, was sister born yet?
No.
But
no, Bean was like 3.
Okay. But I mean, I remember, like, watching him.
So you were like 10.
I mean, I can keep us in one spot at 10.
But most people would be, you're going to leave a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old girl.
We probably talked on this on another stream. The police calling, a lady called the police on me when I was 12, watching my 5-year-old brother at this nice little park. It's not like, it's like off to the side, like it's fenced in. There's lots of people that come and go there. Like it's a pretty safe little spot. It's a fairly safe little town. And it's like, I was there watching my brother for like, an hour or two while you ran into town?
If you told people, like, take a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, 8.5-year-old girls, and then there was a 3-year-old and 6-year-old boy, and leave them, outside a restaurant, on a public beach, and go walk, I don't know, a couple miles down the road to get the car and come back, and the people would freak out, And
then here around, where I'm living at right now, the kids, they look like 5 or 6 walking themselves to school and stuff. Yeah. Totally different. Yeah, lots of stories. Anyway, I'm sure we'll get more stories. I guess I should ask you some of these questions here.
Okay.
I'll start at the bottom. I think there was some leftover questions from like when I did stuff with my siblings. Let's see, what would you say? I think this was from the sibling one.
None of us, I've never been arrested. None of us have been arrested. Have any of us?
Yeah,
I'm surprised your dad has never been arrested.
He did some crazy stuff when he was
got
younger.
Picked up by the MPs because they live in Germany, but he never got arrested.
No, man, some of the stories that you and Dad tell are like, blow my mind.
I mean, what I did when I was younger, but see, nobody's watching us. Nobody's seen anything. There's no recordings, and then, stuff that I did. And then,
oh gosh, what was the thing where it's like talking about like
we never had interactions. I thought about that one time. Like nowadays, the police are just out in a presence and seeing what's going on and putting their nose into what young kids. I feel like when we were kids, I mean, our parents ignored us, but the police ignored us. There was just no, oversight or to come around or see anything.
Oh, someone says you sound Southern. I guess you finally have an accent. We seem like Southern implants for a while.
I mean, I've raised the family in Southern areas, but I'm from the Washington D.C. area, and I've always been, I don't know, living where I do live, Southern. I've always been told that I have an outside accent. That I don't sound Southern.
I guess you sound kind of Southern now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I get maybe slightly more of a Southern-ish accent.
And my kids that I've all raised in 2 different Southern states.
We
never have sounded like the other kids around us.
No.
And they always stood out. Every single one has always stood out and sounded different.
And Dad was an Army brat and traveled around, so like even though his family's from the South, he doesn't really have an accent. So anyway, let's see. What would you say to a family with 12 children? How would you say your family compares to that? We know a family with 11 children at one point.
Yeah, that family imploded though.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know, what would you say to a family of 12 children? I'm not sure what the question quite is, but maybe we were talking about siblings and being in a big family.
Yeah, it's like, well, you have your things and what you do, and probably would stick to that. You can make
also
a rich
totally
life.
Depends on the temperament of the kids. A lot, I think, of like how many.
Yeah, it's like
and how the day goes.
You make a rich life with this stuff without getting too complicated.
Yeah.
Like, when I just am dealing with 3 or 4 kids, then you can be more spontaneous. You can do different things, but you end up stressing people. That's the biggest thing I think with kids is just to set up their life and the tempo of your day and what you do on a weekly basis to not stress them.
Yeah.
You don't need stress on you. You don't need stress in the home. And stress on young children, babies and toddlers, especially up through age 6 or 8, rewires their brain. I mean, it's even the very best daycares for babies and very young children of loving people and whatever. Those babies are stressed. If you talk to some workers of quality care, they feel a little bit sad because, those, and that depends on the kid's personality too. Some kids are pretty easygoing about who's taking care of them. But as babies and very young ones that don't understand and separate from their parents and being taken, pulled away every day or stressing, it's fine, go to work, they'll cry, they'll be fine. And it's true, they'll be okay after you're gone and we'll play. But they're feeling stress, and that stress is just like bathing their brain at a very young age, and it sets you up for problems later in life. And one thing
any kind of like groove, like if you feel experiencing this kind of same stress that's forming these grooves in your brain, then when you feel stress later, you fall into those patterns. And
then so also maladaptive behaviors, the more they practice and do it as a little one, the deeper ingrained it becomes. So, you might have a child that does fine in daycare all day. They might actually be a more outgoing, ambitious kid, but they're the type that has the evening meltdown, almost rage against the mother, just over the littlest things, because they save that up all day. They're stressed,
and then usually
they're
mom
practicing that every day. They're practicing that rage response every day. Some kids that, their parents almost are in tears. It's like, I pick him up from school, I pick him up from daycare, in that first 2 hours, he's so angry at me. Everything, you offer is no, I don't want, or no good. And, so some kids just completely fall apart and
because it's like
they rage. And it's like, you need to just set up the life to not have, those negative. I'm not saying that you don't have negative emotions, because you have negative emotions.
But it's just like it's not setting you up for success. You're in these patterns.
But a big family, whatever, and what works for one family doesn't work for another. But yes, you need to set it up so that it's less stress for the parent, but the parent needs to be intentional about being on the kid's level and in tune with them, because you could set something up with 12 kids that's not stressful for the parent, and they're like lockstep, this is what they do, and they put on, blinders or plug to ears to the kids, coming unglued over something. It's like, nope, this is what we do, without, really being in tune to the needs of the kid. And yeah, you can go overboard if you're sitting there so in tune, trying to cater to the needs and whims of every single kid amongst their, you drive yourself crazy. So there needs to be a happy balance where you set it up so that it works and there's a nice flow. And you probably 12 kids, I would be less complicated and less just go fly by the seat of my pants. We might not be out doing as many things, but what we would, what we do would be nice and enjoyable. We just have what fun we can have with what we have. We don't need to go tromping through the museums or going on long outings with everybody in tow. But that one family that has the 11 kids, I have gathered up. Let's see, I went to that one museum down below us, the town below us, and I had my 3 youngest were still
they're all girls.
Little.
There was like one
there was
boy.
one boy in there, and that one time I took, they were all pretty little. So they were probably in age from, and my youngest one is right in between their 2 youngest girls. So, I don't know, they're probably, 4, 5, 6, the 3 little girls. And then the next one is that boy. So he was probably like 8 years old when we went on that outing. And I had all of them right up until, so let me see, I didn't have oldest 3, so I had 8 of theirs. And
had the
my
15
3,
passenger van, you could just fill up with people.
We went down to that museum, and they're all girls except for that one boy, that 8-year-old boy. So I probably had, 4, 5, 6 girl, probably an 8-year-old boy, and then after that, what are the girls? They got 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. All so I probably had girls from 9 to 12, and we were all down there. And then it's the funniest thing, because that little boy he will copy and act like at that age the girls so
Yeah.
much, and say everything. Just like littlest grandson has two big sisters, and so if he sees a cool car, oh, it's so adorable, it's so cute, I just love it. When
Meanwhile, me and
it's a cool
sister
car,
surrounded by boys is a much different influence on us. Of like,
yeah, Chicken Tender said something to me this morning about
being surrounded by boys and the influence.
sibling. Well, all her siblings are, a good bit older than her.
I know, and I was like,
She made
I
a
left
comment.
when she was 8, which sucks, being so far away, like,
Yeah.
from when she was so young still. That's the, like, I
know.
enjoyed the 12-year age gap, especially, like, being able to remember all of her, like, little babyhood and stuff, but the downside is marrying and then moving off.
Yeah, well, because when it was college time and everything, you even said, because that was before that, when she was like 4 or 5, she's like, I finally have a sister. I can't just go away to college
know.
and miss everything, with her. But she made a comment to me today about her age gap, and she said, I'm glad I'm not closer in age to all my siblings. I think I would have had severe mental problems. But that's just because of what her siblings are. She's left behind there in the United States with her dad and 4 brothers. And I guess some of what's been going on while I'm gone, or some of the banter or what she's exposed to, she's like, I'm glad I'm not closer to my siblings.
she's been your little buddy.
Yeah. She says, most of the time, she's like, I don't feel like I have siblings. I feel like I have roommates. Because,
Well, and she's got her close friends though. Yeah, I don't know. It's but like each sibling will have their own experience of their family life, different stages the parents are in, or different dynamics and personalities of siblings and parents. I think that's probably pretty common.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like all my dancing. I'm like I probably took up a lot of time going to dance all the time.
Yeah. So if you had 12 kids, and then, some people that have 12 kids homeschool, and their kids are pretty much around all the time. Some send their kids to school. For me, I feel like the effort that it did, that's just me not being a very, structured, organized person. The effort of actually getting everybody up and ready and on time in the morning is way more effort than it takes to just, hang with them all day. Because
That's how I feel.
if I don't have to, get them up and going and on time.
Especially little kids.
And all the kids will slowly wake up. They'll wake up, they kind of, bump around, have their little morning routine they might do, come get for food, but there's no crush time. And I have more time to just kind of, do what I need to do in the morning with the kids starting to bop around. And then we can start our day. Mm-hmm. And, and I might have to organize them.
Yeah, the idea to me of, like, one, having to be on time somewhere every day, and having to, like, deal with, especially with my kids, the idea of, like, trying to deal with other teachers trying to deal with my kids.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Is that
none of your kids and my kids, well, except for my youngest, might have, like, he would work.
When we bought the farm, I always laugh at the euphemism for dying. Bought the farm. Mm-hmm. When we bought the farm, Bean was 3 going on 4. And so by the time he was of the age, we'd been at the farm and it's operational and everything because we got a production there. And I hadn't had little Chicken Tender yet. And
he did.
And there's an elementary school, like, a stone's throw up the road. Mm-hmm. And I kind of fantasized, like, what if I just it's basically government subsidized babysitting.
Yeah.
What if I put him in school? But the thought of having to deal with teachers dealing with him, I was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people that feel overwhelmed with homeschooling. If for some reason my kids ever, like, had to go to, like, a school, the idea of, like, going every day and teachers or homework, I'm like, goodness, no, that seems too much.
Yeah, I always felt like up until they're, middle high school, which then at that point they can be self-sufficient. You don't really have to sit and school them. Mm-hmm. The amount of time that you spend actually trying to work with them or school them is equal to the amount of time you would set trying to do homework with them anyway. Mm-hmm. So
and it's much more individual, and you, like,
other than if you're the type of parent that you just really are more organized, and you can just need them out of the house, and you appreciate having them out of the house and have your time to organize and tend to your house. But me, I don't know, they'd be out of the house and I'd be like chaotic, like, oh, I need to do this, oh, and I'm not going to get anything done anyway. I mean, I find that, you know, you might as well just get out of the house with them and go have fun.
Yeah.
You know, just go do something. And then the rushing. So even in like Facebook little reels and memes that are like, oh, you know, the 5 things I would tell you as a parent, as a, you know, child psychologist. And one of the main things I see, other than, you know, like not screaming, yelling, you know, at your kids that are having a better rapport, is one of the simple things that people overlook that is harming your child's mental health is rushing them. And though that's the whole school thing of having to rush, you know, sets their body up and we noticed it with your little guy and some of mine, that they'll check in like, we're not late, we're not, you know, my youngest one, chicken tender, you know, to get out of the house, even if it's a little bit of a tight time frame, cannot say like, we have to go now, we're going to be late.
It's never a straight line.
It's, you know, don't say to them.
I think I need to get better at this because I've fallen into this
because
way too
I
much.
have to have a calm zen, like, no, it's good, yes, we, you know, go ahead and put your shoes on, because then if it's like, but I'm putting my shoes on, but are we going to be late? Are we going to be late to the party? Are we on time for, and you know.
Kiddo, like, he's, most of the time I'm like trying to get him out of the house, and I need to be better about like, just kind of keep getting him moving and getting him towards the car, because he always, there's so many times that it's like, we're going to go do something or meet with friends, and then suddenly he's playing now, or he's doing, like, it's so hard getting him out, and I've been bad about like being stressed and rushed, and especially when it was just him and he was a little toddler, and we had a lot more events that and like plans during the week when we lived in the States, and then also trying to potty train him, I'd probably stress
or
it
as a
out way too
parent,
much.
if you're going, oh, if we had just left what if it could have been, no, to kids like that, it can't be, it has to be okay. Everything, you have to say that it's fine, that everything's fine, and that there's no problem, that our timeline's working just great.
Most of the
and
time,
there's not a regret. Like, even with chicken tender, even now it's older.
With her, she's more like that. With him, he does. I stress out, and I'll be like, what should have, could have, and being upset. It kind of rolls off him more.
And sometimes when I'm not even stressed over it, I'm just pondering and going, oh, you know, well, we're stopping here first and then going there, and then in the process of it, I'll kind of think, well, you know what, we could have done this first, or left just a little, or done that. And even if I'm not stressing, I'm just pondering. And even though it's not a problem, if I start doing like that, I get, Mom, stop it. You know how I am.
From
you know,
her.
yes, that, you know, don't. I say, no, it's not a problem. I was just contemplating. And it's like, just stop.
I'm so bad. It's so hard for me to like let go of the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and yeah, I need to get better.
Everything, you know.
I need to get better about it. Like, we've been talking this week of like, okay, how can I manage things better, and like,
yes, we could have got here an hour earlier and seen that other part of the show, but you know, that's fine that they were just playing in the sand for an extra hour.
Yeah.
You know, yes, maybe they would have liked that show and then still been okay in these stadium bleachers for the next part, but it's fine that we just showed up and they see the next part as soon as we get there without any waiting and no fuss.
I know. I need to get better about like, well, one, like going out without too much of a timeline. Like when I was in Tokyo solo, things started going wrong when I started having too much of a timeline or expectation in my head. And with the way my kids are right now, it's like, I just need to, I was telling Mom, I'm like, okay, except for like Wednesdays, I need to like make it my thing of like, my priority is leaving the house and like not having too much of a timeline. Kiddo's basically like an Aussie, like a work dog. He needs to be outside in just an area to move around.
He loves being in the water.
Yeah, the water, the sand. Kiddo, or not Kiddo, Dough Baby and sticks. He is always finding sticks.
Where are we going? I don't want to go to the beach. I just want to be outside, play with my sticks.
He loves sticks so much.
So the sticks keep getting gathered and being put in the back of the car.
See, I don't do that. Usually I leave the sticks where they are. You keep putting sticks in the car.
So that way, you know, you'll have sticks to play with.
There was one time he got this giant stick, and I did put it in the car, and then he like asked for it later. That boy and sticks. I don't know. Anyway, talking about trying to leave and stress and stuff, I think there's someone that said I think when we were talking about rushing, he said that was hard for him as a kid. And Yuku Jamari said the reason my mom started homeschooling us was because she saw how they handled the eldest brother and decided she could do way better. I think the similar happened with Milliardo's family, where I think he was in like a little Montessori school, and then in like first grade, at the nice little, church school and stuff. But then his mom was like, homeschooling.
Yeah. Well, in all my babysitting years, the kids that that I took care of in the summer when I had a car, so I was already 16, that my mom babysat during the school year, I think that was the first little piece of the puzzle, because those two boys were very inquisitive, and we would just, and like I get into their world, I talk with them, we just talk, and they ask a million questions that other adults just don't take time to just sit and have fun talking to them about snakes or whatever. And
I found one of my good friends because her kid walked up and started telling me about snakes, and I was telling him how I like black mambas, and I was chatting to the mom and made a friend.
Yeah. So anyway, I would take them to the library, and we would just start doing things and learning, and that was my first, I was very good at school, and I went to good schools and everything, but I felt like I never learned anything in school. Everything I learned was just whatever I was investigating on my own. I think I was fairly advanced, so that anytime anything was being taught in school, I already knew it. I also was very lazy in school because I had to put zero effort into learning material.
There's so many. Some of my friends are like starting homeschooling because their kids are so bored sitting in the school.
So then when I had my oldest kid, Vinny, one of my jobs was a mom that worked down at Disney, and I would pick up her kid from after school care. And that kid would ask me a question, a burning question he had had all day long in school, to the point that he could not tell you, and he was like, 6 years old. He could not tell you anything that they worked on or learned in school. He learned nothing, because all day long he wanted to know, what does it mean we have a free country? Because some kid on the playground wouldn't do what he wanted, because he said, well, it's a free country.
Yeah.
And he had asked somebody, and he was trying to ask, and somebody probably gave him a quick, answer that made him have even more questions. So we spent the whole evening, like 2 hours till his mom come home, sitting on the sofa talking about Cuba and Florida, because we lived in Florida. And so, we're, and the kid is fascinated, and so when kids ask you questions and you're discussing stuff, they learn so much so easily without having to study.
We never really had a curriculum we followed, because it would just come up, most things that we need to learn or ask, like we just come up in conversation about social things, or like how politics work, or the like social, what's the social studies kind of stuff, or science things. Most of it would just kind of come up through life.
And then I even said at that point, when I have kids, I'm going to homeschool, because they're not learning anything in school when they have these burning questions.
Plus, we were too weird to be able to.
And I realized later that it's like, my kids did not learn how to forget. You didn't study to cram and forget.
Oh gosh.
So it's like things that my kids come across and read or learn, they could tell you in in-depth detail about it, weeks, months later. And I'm like, how do you retain so much? Their brains have not been programmed.
Well, talk about being in his math class.
Oh yeah, that's more recent. But so then I was and then when I had my first one, somebody in here is talking about chapter books and everything. My first kid, Vinny, he could read when he was 3. By the time he was 6, he could read complex and comprehend stuff about G-force, gravity, or whatever he was interested in with race cars or airplanes. And he could do anything a 3rd grader could do when he was in kindergarten. And he was also a bit particular and did not want to stop what he was in the middle of doing, like finish up a project, and he wanted to be detailed, and he was particular about, so many things. And I just looked at him, I was like, what are they going to do with this kid in kindergarten? He's way above his level academically, but when you send him to vacation Bible school, he get in trouble for touching the shiny things all over a girl's shirt, or flip out because he doesn't get his 1 Skittles for finishing his project on time like everybody else, or standing in line nicely.
Someone was just saying in the chat that he felt rushed.
Yeah.
He said
we would do vacation Bible school, and he would get so bent out of shape that they would tell him he had to finish what he was working on and go to the next station. You know, if he was touching things in front of him, they would make him put his hands behind his back and stand in line, and he would end up using his teeth to play with the girl's shirt in front of him. You know, I got told, he's biting. I'm like, he's biting. Or there was a joke on the popsicle stick, and he wouldn't go throw his popsicle stick away. And that was a massive fight with that teacher, and that teacher got, you know, I was like, what are they going to... And then he gets on the bus.
One of the teachers in, like, first grade, Milliardo, I remember his mom telling me about it, like, threw away, like, his artwork or something. It was so distraught about it. I think that was the point where she was like, I think I'm going to homeschool.
Yeah, so, yeah, anyway, that's, you know, I knew that I would homeschool kids.
And that was back in the day.
Yeah,
started homeschooling.
Homeschooling wasn't really a thing. Of course, their dad was like, I don't want my kids to be homeschooled. I don't want them to be weird.
We were already weird. Like, we didn't need homeschool. Homeschooling just let us be our true weird selves.
He has also obviously been there for the birth of every one of you guys. And the last three, he was the only other adult present for the birth of the kids. And he's the one that, as we were getting married and his sister was pregnant and discussions come up, told me flat out he would refuse to be in the delivery room for the birth of a child. He said, no way.
He's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really realized, you know, as, you know, your older brothers got older, that they were so knowledgeable. And it's like, how do you remember everything, you know? And it's like, well, if you read something because you're interested in it, you don't have to study it. You just know. I mean, they didn't learn how to study. And then, yeah, the youngest brother, you know, he's like youngest of 4 brothers. And so he's kind of like all along heard how awesome. And when all these other brothers go to do things as adults in schools and trades and universities, how they're like head and shoulders above everybody. And he's kind of wondered, I don't know, you know, I don't feel like I'm that great. Maybe I'm not as good as them. He was
flying a plane better than he was driving at 16.
Yeah. So, but that's typical of a hands-on type.
Yeah.
You know, a mechanically minded, hands-on type learner.
Yeah.
You know, and not a bookish. He's not been, you know, as academically bookish. He, just like Minna, because he was Minna's
my little twin,
little male, testosterone-filled twin.
It's so funny. I've probably mentioned before, but like him and I are these very funny delayed twins, and so much of our personalities and
so
things.
Both of them, yes, have some sort of visual processing dyslexia type stuff going on, you know, never diagnosed, but, you know, could not, as a youngster, I could tell, you know, the reading and academic things, you know, they don't seem like, oh, that they could be brainiac in a school setting. I don't know. I never put any of them
I've never like, the only test I've ever taken was the little, like, college work camp, and they didn't like tell you what your result was on that test unless you like won something, which Rocky won a scholarship.
Yeah.
So I've never taken a test. I've never taken a test. I've never ever gotten a grade. And the idea of grades is really weird to me.
So it was a natural resources, you know, workshop where you had 4 days, and each day was like, one was maybe soil and water management, another was in a forestry, and another was you know, some other kind of conservation. So each day was like a highlight of a certain area of study really at university, and you sat through, you know, classes on it, and at the end of the week you were tested on everything. And Rocky had never taken tests. Rocky never seemed as ambitious and booky as Vinny. You know, Rocky just kind of hung around reading stuff. And
he read a lot of history.
I guess he learned how to take in information and, you know, then retain it well and, you know, test it. Because he'd never taken a test. The only reason Rocky went to this thing was because your friend, one of the kids of the family of 11, was going to that and asked you to go, and the county was paying for it. And I was like, well, take your brother too. I don't know. You know, he was kind of almost aged out of it, but he went because I was like, this might be up his alley. And so of 300 and some kids all across the state that go down to this college conservation workshop thing and get tested at the end of the week, he scored like second place out of everybody.
And then
on the
like
test.
First in one of the topics or something.
I was like, well, all that shows is that you can take in classroom material, retain it, and test well. So I'm working on the farm, not with my cell phone near, and I'm missing all these calls. I get these voicemails. I'm, Mom, we need his social security number. And I'm like, you're in the southern part of the state. What do you need his social security number for? He won a scholarship. He got da-da-da. And I'm like, holy cow, what is going on down there? So, yeah, so he, and I was like, how? And then, Vinny was like, have you ever heard him talk about, weapons and wars and stuff he's read on the internet? Because he seemed like he doesn't do much. And they're like, he's reading stuff on the internet like all day long. So he can retain
battle strategies.
So anyway, then littlest one being here very recently, he has done a lot of hands-on stuff, and yes, being a pilot and everything, but even reading the stuff and getting ready for the written exam and oral exam, it was intimidating to him, and it took a while for him to do it. And evidently, though, when he did take the written, he scored super high on it. So, I mean, he retained the material, even though it took him a year longer than he should have to be ready to do it and decide he can do it. And then even the oral for your private pilot's license, the guy they call DP was like, wow, you can really tell you studied. And I think it's somehow their brains don't have the hang up of studying and trying to purposely retain it. It's like they just do. If they read the stuff, so they didn't set up those pathways at a young age of cramming and then forgetting. And so, yeah, he just went through the material, and I guess, it's like, well, yeah, I read about that. I know it. So all of them. And so he's gone on now to some more serious schooling at the college to do with airplanes. And has had to do some, I mean, I used to do math. I used to do math with the older three, and we bought the farm when the others were like 3 and 5 years old, and then I was busy and like, oh, this year we're going to do a math curriculum. Nah, never happened. Yeah. This never happened with any of the youngest three. So, I mean, obviously he's not an idiot. He's been exposed to math, but
especially Vinny talks about math all the time.
He basically, had to do a crash course over a 2-week period of, these couple days you do percentages and fractions without a calculator and do conversions, and not even conversions that make sense, but actually detailed like you would really have to do long division. And then, culminating into, oh, you've got 3 or 4 days to, sit through some trigonometry material and then get tested on it. And, it's all dictated by the FAA. So if you don't get a good grade, you cannot move on to, and he's been doing like mostly A's, maybe dumped down to a B for a couple things, but I mean, he's done phenomenally. And there's some young people and there's older adults in these classes too. And some of them are intelligent people. A lot of them aren't. He's made the comment that, oh, I've heard all along that, my siblings get into things and realize they're better than everybody else without even trying. And he's like, maybe not me, maybe I'm not that good, but yes, he's in a class of what should be good elite students that they only choose. They have to actually handpick like 20 people per class out of a lot of applicants. And yeah, a lot of them are trash and a lot of them are idiots.
Mom doesn't mince words.
And so there are some that are, kind of okay and decent and trying. And, he tells us all about it. Loves to come home and blabber, but
he's talkative like me.
So
we'll come. Me and him are both the type that will just come find you to talk at you, bother you.
So he has said that even some of the people like, oh yeah, I did this stuff in school, but it's been a while. I haven't had to use these things. They struggled even on just the confirmed fractions and decimals and percentages, and they have to do all kind of stuff with airplane things. And this is all for also mechanical things for airplanes, so physics, and he is like a fresh slate, I guess. His mind doesn't have any maladaptive pathways. So some of these that I would think, oh, it's been years since they did this, but I'm going to listen to, this lecture and look at the material with fresh adult eyes and adult perspective. And yes, I can learn this better than I did when I was a 7th grader. And, just like him, he's kind of blank and fresh. And as an adult with an adult mind, he can take in the material, ask questions, get some tutoring if he needs to, but he hasn't really needed to. He stayed for tutoring for trig just because he thought, okay, this is so new to me, but it was super easy. And and he can understand it, retain it, go home and do the work, and he can test well. And the others, they still have mental blocks. And I think he's at an advantage for not having done it at a young age when his mind was in a stuck, oh no, I can't do this. This is hard. It's like these other people have like maladaptive pathways and they can't see it. And then, especially in math, you've always seen where instructors can explain things one way and you can understand it, but your brain can process a little different, and you can go to your neighbor and be like, ooh, how about, think of it this way, watch, and you step through it. So he's trying to help people and he's like, they're struggling. And I'm like, there's a lot of homeschool stuff from back in the 90s that it was better late than early, instead of better late than never. Is like, don't try to. It's better to wait.
That's why I'm like, the idea of like, oh, I don't want my kid falling behind. I'm like, I don't know if I believe in falling behind.
It's like with reading. You can sit there and try to beat the reading basics and phonics over their head and spend lots of time, lots of stress on you
and those
them.
negative stress pathways.
Or you can just wait until they kind
years.
of pick it up. It's kind of like with
me, I wanted to read so bad.
Yeah.
And with me, like, I wasn't surrounded by my peers of like, oh, I'm terrible. I can't do it. I'm not, surrounded by my peers that are doing it. I had my siblings that, they were reading a bunch. I'd be read out loud too. I'd find audiobooks. And I'm like, I was trying to write stories way before I could actually properly read. I knew how to write letters, and I came up with my own spelling and would try and write a story.
I genuinely wondered about Rocky's the youngest one, right?
Bean.
I genuinely wondered about Bean starting some of his stuff this fall because I'm like, I don't know, how's he gonna do? And then now that I see it, I go, well, my kind of unintentional theory of benign neglect has worked out for all of them, that, it's kind of like the whole, when I was saying about, oh, we can't get out and do all the great things we can because we're a busy family, whatever. It's like, we may not do all the things, but we'll enjoy and have fun the things that we do. Mm-hmm. So instead of like, trying to get out and get them in all the extracurriculars, make it to all the museums and do whatever, it's like, we don't have to have all the fun. We
also,
just have
don't trade fun for fun.
Yeah,
don't try and add more fun.
We just have to enjoy and make nice and stress-free what fun we do find to have. Like going out with the kids, all these, we've had our day. Like we could do this, and this, and we may not hit all those items. And, don't worry about what fun things we missed out on. We just enjoy what little fun we do get to have and make it good and fun. We don't have to do everything. So with school, there's a lot of things my kids maybe didn't do. Some of the older kids got to be involved in more, in some plays, community plays, co-ops, enrichments. The younger ones didn't, and so it's
but we
like,
had the farm to run around on.
You could have been part of a robotics club. You could have done this. You could have gone on the trip that they do.
But they had the farm to run around on the whole time.
So it's like, there's all these things, my kids not being in school, the things that they missed out on that were good things are outweighed by the bad stuff that they missed out on. The bad and negative influences or the bullying or the stress or the propaganda or just the fact that you're in such a group setting at a 5 and 6 year old age,
so much logistics,
and you don't know your mind. Like, why are all the teenagers like, you have to find yourself again? They don't know themselves. All my kids are kind of befuddled by the whole introspective, try to know yourself, because as long as you can get to the age of 12 with having your own settled mind space, quiet time,
I realized that when we did the work camp, or not work camp, but the little college thing we were talking about. And it was like, that was my crash course in high school, that like all the high school tropes happened. And I got home and it took me days, especially my very social personality, I was wound up like crazy. It took me days to like wind down and feel like, oh yeah, I'm myself again.
Yeah.
I was like, I love overstimulation, but I get so wound up.
It's like, I realize, even kids that just have a regular, normal elementary school experience, you're in a group, you're doing everything with the group, all your likes and, you're just guided as a group and group think. And and it's hard for kids, when they hit 12, if they've been raised like that, to speak out in the group or be an individual or a standout. I mean, Chicken Tender, she's just so funny because She is so unashamedly and unabashedly herself, aggressively
I feel like I've gotten more insecure as I got into adulthood than I was as a teen.
Yeah.
I like question myself more.
And there's situations in her dance class or things she's doing, and she'll do things, you know, whatever. She's like, I can do literally anything I want, or I can just even state I'm not doing. And everybody goes, oh, that's fine. That's just see it.
Yeah.
See.
The sister.
That's just chicken finger, you know, chicken tender.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's just her. But yeah, it's like, you know, she can just be unabashedly herself, and even just amongst a friend group, she can do things that make people go like, what, and look at her sideways. But her friends are like, but that's just her, you know.
Yeah.
And where
But I think part of that's her personality
or
too.
even there's like 3 or 4 really close friends that aren't the other group. The 3 sisters of our friend, they're all homeschooled, so it's a whole different dynamic. When she even talks about like, God, I hate school kids, you know, just when she goes to her dance class, you know, which is, you know, just about every day of the week, and she's with these, and there's like three other girls that are, you know, school kids, and just hearing how they are, how their personalities are molded, and how she talks about how they're also copy paste. You know, once you're in a group like that, they all become copy paste about the interests, how they act, or what they worry about, and things that they won't do that she'll just flat out, you know, I'm not afraid to do or say that. But yeah, she rants about school kids sometimes. Yeah. So, anyway, what else are we going on about?
Okay, so let's get to the actual questions. Let's see.
We haven't been arrested.
No, yeah. These ones were more for siblings. Let's see.
I did have the cops calling me again for sitting in the parking lot with the grandkids. The grandkids are hanging out the windows.
You had it's a big, funny kind of looking van. It's not the 15 passenger, and it looked like there was just a small boy sitting in the front, and you were in the back. But the lady, I'm surprised the lady didn't walk up to like check it out first instead of standing back, being like, "Oh, it looks like there's a kid left in there." Call the cops. Like, why not just walk up because you were right in the back?
Funny stories about young Minna. Oh yeah, so young Minna's.
Oh, I guess we already talked about. I don't know, any misconceptions about homeschooling? Any other thoughts
misconceptions you think most people have about the concept of homeschooling? Number one now, especially since COVID and homeschooling because have become such a thing, is the conception that you're going to recreate school in your home.
Bad idea.
That you're going to...
The point is to not...
You know, or even people like, I have a 3 or 4-year-old. I want to homeschool. How do I start homeschooling
you go
now?
Outside.
So we get...
You go outside as much as possible. You try to fight against screen time. Just go outside and
Books. Just go to the library.
Just let their mind be. There was that one NPR story I listened to where, like, talking about kids being stressed out. Where at a certain point over the last
has there been a common theme here about stress and rushing in life and harming kids mentally? I mean, even more so than, you know, screaming at them, grabbing them, jerking them around when you're stressed. You know, the stress and rushing
at a certain
of
point,
life.
Because I remember they talked about like. During like the space race and Cold War, there's this push of like we have to have our children be the best educated. So there was a lot of like early education push and like always trying to like educate and enrich small children, but you're just like noise at them all the time, and then parents are stressed out because they feel like they need to be engaged with their child constantly. And back way earlier in different time periods, kids just kind of roamed, like kids were just kind of orbited around the family life, not the family life revolving around the kids so much, and that shifted in the past
and letting kids do real life meaningful things and work, you know,
being part of
a kid that's in school, especially a kid that's struggling, and the only thing their parents focus on is you have to work hard, school, that's your job, school, and they're not the brainiest.
And then we also wonder why everyone feels very individual, because from a young age it's always your job is to play or your job is school, and it's never like, oh, your job is part of this
kid that
family.
Is not that great at school and has other strengths, they're never going to feel accomplished. They're never going to win because everybody's always smarter and ahead of them. They're always struggling. They're always doing tutoring. And so they're not allowed to do anything else like a sports or an activity because their grades aren't good enough. And so they're not allowed to get involved in, you know, theater or a sport or photography or, you know, go off volunteering, you know, at working trails or making something, I don't know. something that they actually like and is a passion, and they could actually be like, hey, I'm good at this, I can feel proud of myself, I can succeed, they're not allowed to do anything other than schoolwork.
There's the one video I saw where a homeschooling mom was like, I forget how old the boy was, maybe closer to like elementary or young high school or something, but she was like, yeah, we were trying to sit down and do schoolwork, and I could just tell he was it wasn't going to go well. And so went out to where dad was working outside, and she was like, hey honey, he's not in trouble yet, but he's going to be if he stays inside, so give him a job out here. Whatever young boy, how old he, I forget how old he was, went out, worked with dad a bit, come back in, then it's like, okay, cool, his body regulated, ready to work.
If he went out there with
easy peasy.
If he was out there splitting logs and actually was like, ooh, working hard and kind of messed up at first and figured out how to do it good, it's like, oh yeah, that's a good one.
And then letting kids just run around, think about things, think about their world, think about
someone that's not that great in school never gets a chance to feel accomplished.
Yeah.
Or proud of themselves. Sure, eventually they get good at reading, but then everybody else around them laughs and goes, ha, that's baby. I did that 2 years ago.
Gifted at a certain point, and then they run into problems because it's like, oh, they're the gifted kid at a certain point, but then things shift or change. You okay over there, bud?
So it says, funny stories about Brady Bunch moments, and I guess this could go hand in hand with funny stories about young Minna. Just random kind of chaotic things around the house, like young Minna coming out and be like, my brother's licked my light switch and now the lights don't work in my room anymore. I'm like, what? So the faceplate wasn't on her light switch because we've been painting her room fancy bibbity bobbity blue and pink colors. And one of the boys, I think the oldest one, Vinny, discovered that if he touched it a certain way, it screws, there was a buzz. Luckily, it was kind of a new house. It was a new construction build, so it had good ground fault protection. So he dared, says Vinny, he dared Rocky to lick it. So I guess Rocky stuck his tongue to something that was giving live voltage and then made all the lights in her room go out. And she was pretty mad at them for breaking the lights in her room. Let's see, some other, I guess the classic Brady Bunch moment of forgetting a kid was not Bean's the youngest. Whatever Bean's next brother is. What did she say? What's Bean's brother's name? Not Bean. Milk Dud. Okay, Milk Dud. Okay, so it was actually Milk Dud's birthday. Let's see, which birthday would it have been? Because Chicken Tender was probably about 3.
Was around.
Yeah, if she was like 2 or 3, then let's see, the next one is 5, so 6, 7, 8. Is 8 years older. So yeah, it was probably like his 11th birthday, and just the big chaotic, chickens are gonna come in later today, but I gotta take little Minna to the next town over for dance this afternoon. And homeschoolers are having a really cool program at the library with a Holocaust survivor. And how are we juggling all the pieces of the puzzle today? And I promised Milk Dud, when Milk Dud and Bean were younger, they would go with me to dance every evening because I'd have to watch them. But now, that they were like, 8 and 11, sometimes they would stay home. They weren't the little kids anymore that I was dragging off to dance with me 3 nights a week with baby Chicken Tender. So Chicken Tender's probably about 4. So yeah, it might have been his 12th birthday. He was little because Milk Dud was a tiny, tiny little kid when he was even 12 years old. He looked like, an 8-year-old. So anyway, he finally grew taller, but he was really short when he was little. I love that picture of you guys all dressed up with Vinny's wife and Vinny's wife's brother and little Milk Dud to go to a prom or something. You guys are all dressed up and little Milk Dud's wearing, and he's so short. He looks like, it's all the teenagers going to a teen dance, and it looks like there's an 8-year-old in the mix. But we had a time that, and so Bean didn't go, for some reason Bean didn't want to go to the library for the program. So of course Bean and Milk Dud, they're the two that would notice each other missing. You know, the bigger teens, you know, don't hardly pay attention to what Bean and Milk Dud are doing. And that family that has the 11 kids, it was a couple of their kids were going to come back with us to help doing the chickens. Vinny's now wife, of course, was a teenager too. Her and her brother were going to come back with us. Of course, all these families wanted to go to the library to this neat program. I didn't stay for the program with little chicken tender because she's like 4 years old. So I drove some of my kids, only my kids, minus, I guess Bean stayed home. I guess Vinny was with us. Yeah, I think everybody was there except for Bean. For some reason, we didn't take him. If he had been there, he might have been the only one to alert me. So I take kids, I drop them off. Back home to pick up kids. And then like a whole swarm of kids ends up in my 15-passenger van. I don't know, I think there was 2 from the one big family and 2 from Vinny's wife's family. Mm-hmm. And so it was just kind of a mishmash of people getting in the van. I had walked in to kind of, you know, everybody's mingling at the end of the program in the side room to see what was going on. Kids start kind of spreading everywhere, so I was kind of gathering up, you know, my kids and extras that needed to go. I didn't realize that quiet little Milk Dud had just kind of gone off to the side into the reading section and was quietly reading somewhere in a corner. And we gathered everybody up into the van. And I even had to drive in front of the library as we were leaving. And another friend who was very close with Bean and Milk Dud and her boys were standing out front. And I stopped to actually talk to her. Come to find out later, that friend had just walked out of the reading section of the library where she had been talking to Milk Dud. She had seen Milk Dud there and was leaving, and I happened to slow down and roll down my window because this homeschool friend would actually take Milk Dud into her house once a week and do lessons with him, with her boys, and chat with her. So she sees me with a van full of kids driving away where she has just walked out of the library talking to one of my kids. I don't know how she didn't alert me that I didn't have him. I don't know. It was chaotic.
Yeah.
I took this Brady Bunch Plus back to the farm, and chickens, I don't know if they just weren't coming yet or they're going to be delayed. Probably just weren't coming yet. It was just going to be later because I think the whole point was that I wasn't going to be home in the afternoon when chickens came.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, now it's like middle of the day. You know, I probably got about 2 or 3 hours. I mean, no, the program probably is 10. It's probably like 1
how
o'clock.
many kids do you think were over?
Oh, let's see. All 6 of my kids, except 1 was missing. So 5 of my 6 kids were there. And if I'm envisioning right, 2 from Vinny's wife's family. And I know 2 of them from the other family were there, but maybe a third. So that's 4 or 5 extra kids. So yeah, about 10 kids.
Yeah.
10 or 11 kids were supposed to be there. And of course, you know, little chicken tender, she's just my constant shadow. She's my permanent attachment at that point. She's just always with me. And some kids had run upstairs doing something. Some kids were probably in Minna's room. Or Minna had taken them out to the barn and were saying hi to horses. I know there was some bigger boys out there walloping each other with foam-covered swords and axes. Mm-hmm. And they were really spread out because it was time for us to get ready to go to dance. And I told Minna she needed to be ready. And quiet little Milk Dud, he was just always probably somewhere, but I was taking him with me. Instead of him having to stay home, I was going to take him. And there was a specific really cool restaurant, this hometown, you know, concoction that actually has garnered national attention one time, won some prizes. Really? Yeah, the one that makes those sandwiches with the funny name.
Oh,
that
really?
Was, yeah. I don't know if I say the name because it's so unique. They would know where it's at.
Yeah.
They have it as a food truck now. Mm-hmm. And I watch their Facebook page, and if their food truck is out at one of the, nightclub restaurants or whatever on a day that I'm in town with dance with little chicken tender, I have occasionally gone and gotten some of their food.
Yeah.
It's very
There's one
unique.
time they were taking, this was a while ago when they had the location downtown, and they were taking pictures of the food for the venue so you could go, and after they took the pictures, they were just handing out the sandwiches to people. That was great.
Yeah, they're pretty neat family. I mean, it's a family operation. They used to have the storefront, now they have the food truck. But at the time, they had a little baby themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And then as their baby got bigger and everything, and they didn't want to be, they have their daughter.
Yeah.
But I see their daughter every once in a while. But yeah, I don't know, Milk Dud, he was going to go with me and get a birthday, late lunch. I don't know, I couldn't find him. But he's always just kind of off in La La Land doing his own little thing. And, I honestly just was looking for him. So I made my rounds around the farm. It was almost comical, Brady Bunch comical, that here I go. I walk upstairs. There's a group of kids. Is he here with you? No. I go into the other room upstairs. Oh, surely he wouldn't be in Vinny's room. Nope, he's not there. I go downstairs. I look in the living room. No. Well, there's some people up at the barn. Let me go to the barn. Have you guys seen Milk Dud? No, is go out to the kids fighting out in the yard, maybe somewhere in the second pasture. But I remember I went like dot to dot to dot to dot to all these different sections of little bits of chaos going on around the farm, saying, oh, is Milk Dud here? No Milk Dud. Is maybe like a story like, where's Spot? Is Spot under the rug? Is he under? Is Spot in the barn? No. Is Spot in the pasture? No. Is Spot in the playground? Is Spot upstairs? Is Spot in Vinny's room? Can't find Spot. Thing is I walked around honestly being like, gosh, where is he? And it's been, way more than an hour that we've been home. And little Bean is usually the one. Bean and Milk Dud would be near each other and around, They weren't favored buddies, but they just were together. They just, by happenstance and age, they happen to always be together, even though they kind of clash a bit. But, like oil and water. But they still were together because they have to be in the pancake mix, just like you're making right now.
Yeah, you're good at yapping, so I'm making pancakes.
Yeah, I know this whole thing sounds funny because we're just standing here yapping, and who knows what the internet is listening to.
That's streaming in a nutshell.
All right, so he wasn't
It's like
around.
a Home Alone situation, yeah.
So the comical thing is like a reverse Home Alone. Everything's happening at the house, but no Milk Dud. And so I walked around, of course, with chicken tender on my hip. And I guess about the time that I was talking to Bean, and Bean's probably, like 8 years old. Yeah. And it comes across that Bean kind of draws it to my attention that he has not seen Milk Dud. Bean had stayed home. Bean wasn't with us in the car. So Bean doesn't know, if he was in the car coming home. Bean has not seen him. So then I made a point of making my whole round again, dot to dot to dot. It was almost comical. Went to this spot where there was a little cluster of kids. Did you guys see Milk Dud in the van on the way home? And of course, kind of like, I don't know, not particularly, but nobody's paying attention to what Milk Dud was doing. Who knows? So I went getting the little, shrugged and non-committal answers of maybe, or wasn't he there? So I went to spot to spot to spot to spot. And it was probably when I got to Vinny's wife, wherever she was at the moment. I don't know. I'm sure Rocky was over there battling with those other two boys from other two families, who I can't picture in my mind where Vinny and Vinny's future wife were hanging out
somewhere.
the farm. And in talking to her, she actually wasn't at the library thing to begin with. When I dropped people at the library, I believe I drove to her house and picked her up. And so she would not have known who I brought with me. She would not have been like, hey, she wasn't in the van to begin with. She would not have known, like, hey, we're missing a kid. And especially since the youngest boy, Bean and Milk Dud were usually together, were not around, it didn't draw any alarm to her attention that, they weren't there, because both of them weren't there when we loaded up in the end. So in talking to her, and she'd be the most clear-minded one, and actually thoughtful and observant, that she pretty much, sealed it for me that no, he was not in the van when we drove home, and she did not realize that he had been with our group to begin with.
Yeah.
Because she did not see him. She wasn't there at the program. she just got picked up and then went with me to go gather everybody up from the library. And when she went in and gathered everybody up from the library with me, they were all in the community room chatting and talking, and there was no bean or milk cut around. So she just didn't think. So no, at that point, I went from person to person to person going, was he in the van? Was he in the van? Was he in the van? No. And then I go back through, you know, backwards going, we didn't have him. We left him. Where is he? Anyway, yeah, then I go in the house and call the library and ask them, you know, to like see if he's there. And I think about the time that I called, he had started to realize, had gotten scared, you know, that, but yes, on his birthday, I completely forgot of his existence. Left him at the library for a couple of hours.
Usually,
didn't even know he wasn't
you
at the
leave
house.
with the same amount of kids you came with, but you added extra
Yeah,
kids.
whenever I go to a park, if I show up with 5 kids and, you know, other parents are hollering, you know, come on, go, and, you know, kids have buddied up with their friends and stuff in a homeschool group, and I look at the moms and I go, look, if we each leave with the same number of kids we came with, it'll all work out in the end. So, if you came with 5 kids, grab any 5 kids and you're good to go. That's the rule.
Yes.
I don't know. What other?
Well, we haven't even really touched any of the questions. I'm
Well,
gonna have
okay,
to
what
go
other
through.
question?
I think. Are we gonna?
Tell me another question.
Okay.
I don't know.
We might need to do a follow-up stream. Or do you want to
okay,
just
this
run
one.
speed run?
I don't know. Show me the
Okay.
questions you
Let's
would
see.
ask. Regarding your horses, do you have people that come visit them, like some sort of tour school outing or something akin? No, we don't with the kids, other than random, you know, friends that are like, oh,
You'd
you
be
know, I
like,
want to come. spend
Minna,
some
go
time
take
in-"
this kid, this other
Yeah.
homeschool mom's kid out to see the horses.
And Minna learned, you know, some really good natural horsemanship in the way of being able to like voice dog train a horse. And so I would send her out there, you know, with her horsey, she trained from the wild, then with no rope on it or anything, and have her, you know, show off her cool skills of getting the horse to perform and listen and circle and come to you without a rope as if there was a rope on her.
Yeah, a little liberty play.
And then, yeah, we had friends. We have often had friends that, you know, say, my daughter wants to. There's been a handful that have come over and made a little bit of a schedule to come over, and we give them, you know, some sessions and work with them on horses and riding. I've done that.
We're not organized enough to be like, oh,
No.
it's good. All right, let's see. Okay, so we've done different childhood
most of-
stories.
Do you want your most embarrassing story about your daughter? Dad's embarrassing story in the front yard with the neighbors in Florida?
I was a toddler.
Yeah, it's funny. Well,
People pulling down my pants to pee in the yard.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, you know, the way your dad will tell it, though, is like, you know, standing in the yard, talking to the neighbor dad. And, you know, in that neighborhood, she was feral. You know, we moved in when she was just turning 1 and moved out when she was 5. And, yeah, she was very feral. Hardly had clothes on. Luckily, the one time that she really, really, really escaped down the street to the point that other people found her and I didn't know she was missing, luckily she was clothed then, because there was other times that if the garage was open and she got out the kitchen door to the garage before, and usually I'd catch her pretty quickly, but she was many times streaking down the street without a stitch of clothing on. But yeah, the one time that Vinny just kind of popped the door and let her out of the house because he thought I was in the front yard and Dad was in the backyard, and I had walked across the street and nobody saw her leave, and she went around the corner and down the street to the bigger road. She got picked up by somebody. Luckily she was fully clothed, but I was sitting in the neighbor's house facing my house, just chatting, sitting on their picnic table, when I saw some strange people walking up to my house carrying my daughter. Yeah, but now they're that same neighbor that I would go, you know, chat with. He was at our front yard, and Minna's dad is just standing there and goes, hey, dude, just don't turn around. And she was always wearing, you know, her pile of mismatched, stacked up shorts or whatever. And she was just very good and fast about, she could, like, you know, most kids make a mess trying to, especially a girl. No, she could, like, whip, you know, probably at like 3 or 4 years old, whip those shorts down to the ankles, butt straight up in the air, pee straight back out of the back, not getting a drop on her, you know, and back. And yeah, we're still good friends with those neighbors in Florida.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Let's see. There's, you know, a couple questions for stories. I feel like we got
For your
several
mom, what is
stories.
your favorite meal to make? I am
You're not the type of like, oh, let's make a meal.
what are some of the things? Well, we would make the lasagna, and then Vinny got into really wanting to cook, and he created the white lasagna that we would make.
Yeah. Like
I
an
would make you
Alfredo
monkey
lasagna.
heads,
Monkey heads was fun.
peppers.
I know.
Mostly it was just like I said, I'm out running and playing and on their level and adventuring, and food is just like I've got to throw some food in front of kids. So, spaghetti, rice.
I enjoy cooking, and I want to be more like, oh, make these fun meals, but I end up being like, all right, what do I throw at these children?
Stew beef. We make stew beef and rice.
Yeah. The rabbit was fun.
Yeah,
was Dad making that?
Yeah, Dad
probably
usually
more.
cooked rabbit.
I mean, at the farm nowadays, it's just throwing stuff.
Water.
We would always steal your food when after a sister was born, and you had like a very limited diet for a while. But you just make these yummy stir fries, and all of us would come around being like, "Ooh!" and you're like,
touch my food.
Yeah.
I make one big pan. And it is everything for me for the entire day, and that's all I get to eat. You guys have lots of other choices. Or it would be like one of the things that I can eat, there's just a little bit left, and I put it up because that will be my whole meal without having to cook from scratch. Oh, I'm putting it in the wrong one. And they would come by, and even their dad would, guilty of it, would eat that. Well, I saw it in the fridge. It was just a little bit, so I figured I'd finish it. No, you don't finish off that little bit. That little bit is purposely there because it's the one and only thing that I can grab to eat later without
things you could eat then.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
What do I like in the neighborhood house though? What things would I cook that you guys liked? I made a special things because I would always on birthdays.
Plantains were always fun.
Yeah,
Frying
on
up some
birthdays I would
plantains.
always ask what you wanted for a meal, what we'd make that I didn't
know, there
normally
wasn't
make
really
all the time.
Big family
Food's just
meals.
Food.
We were never good, especially when I would do dance. We were never able to everyone sit down for a meal at the table. We just weren't.
What's the hardest thing about raising a child? It's never ending.
It's the what is it? There's a phrase I was thinking
It's
of.
really never ending. You think when they're little, the struggles that Minna's in right now because it's little kids and all the stuff.
It's very consistent. It's very like all-consuming with little kids. But then
it doesn't end.
Problems get more complicated as they get
it's
older.
like serious.
And then you get a good relationship with your kids, and they keep hanging around bothering you all the time. And then you get grandkids.
Yeah, I never have an empty nest.
You never know because like your youngest
It's never
was 7.
ending.
Oh, what's it feel like with your kid? Like your batch of kids, like almost all grown up. Like sister's like the last one, and she's.
I don't know. I don't have time to think.
What was it with Gen Xers where it's like my generation talks about like trying to unpack things, and you're like, nope, that's packed away. I'm not touching it.
No, suitcases can get stationed.
There's a great like comment section. I
realized that
where it's like kids can unpack it. I packed it away very carefully. Thank you very much.
Like Minna's generation, our kids want to introspect and think about and want to. I said it says something for how good of a job we did that they actually want to unpack and discuss, the shortcomings of their upbringing or what us as parents,
They might want to do
did wrong or different. I was like, we must have done a decent enough job because, us, we look at that stuff and go, nope, that's a suitcase that ain't going to be touched and not going to be unpacked. That can just stay off in a corner. Must be done a good enough job that, it's not that they are bring it out and talk about it.
I guess breaking the cycle is more for like actual abuse cycles. Because like for me, here, let me move him away. Hey buddy, go over back towards me.
The struggles you have with a little kid are chump change compared to the almost fully grown adults.
Like me crashing the van into a dump truck.
And the almost fully grown adults and the serious consequences of some of their, stressful endeavors and things they don't tell you about that have happened and problems that they might get themselves into that you need to help them get out of but could have serious permanent consequences. Yeah, they can be much more stress-inducing
when
they
they're
get
little
older.
kids, it's just like all-consuming. It's very like they're like always orbiting you, and then they get older and they can take care of themselves a bit. But
what else is there here to ask about?
Let's see. New viewer, since don't know much background for your mom. Let's see. I think I had questions. Where was my questions I had for you? I meant to like do more of like talking about strategies of how you approach kids or different things. I guess how do you manage screen time with kids and for yourself? Any advice?
Yeah, didn't used to be a thing. and now it is. And yeah, like I
Much
said,
harder to
I'm
get
not
away
an
from.
orderly,
Like, we
disciplined
never had
person.
cable TV. We only had like VCR
And DVD. Yeah, we
or
never did
VHS and DVD.
TV, and we still don't. And Vinny's
When
kids,
the younger kids were a younger batch, they'd have like YouTube, like they'd watch Wildcrafts and stuff on YouTube. The younger three.
yeah. What was I gonna say? Like, the biggest thing with raising kids and all that is to parent and make decisions for the kid that's in front of you at the moment, not
even comparing it to the kid it was, he was yesterday.
and not making your decision of what to do in the moment based on, what you're afraid they'll be like in the future. You give them what they need, you decide, and you're not parenting the kid in the book that you read about, or the parenting strategy. You're parenting the kid in front of you at the moment, and you decide what they need, that yes, they might be lashing out or saying something
Especially
mean
young
and
kids, you
ugly.
really gotta look at it's never usually about the thing they're freaking out about or melting down about. It's usually about something else in the day. Are they overtired? Are they stressed out? Or do they need to eat something?
So you don't need to discipline that action out of them when in the moment it's like, this kid in front of me needs to step away with me hugging them a minute and then we'll talk,
And
or
it seems like around age 5, 4 or 5, well, I guess more like 5, 6, they're making that transition to more of a bigger kid. They're starting to be able to, their brain developing to a point where they have a little more, impulse control and other things. But it's tricky, though, because they gotta practice it. And so I think that's what you said. You should talk about, the attachment style that you have, especially with little kids. And then as they, reach a slight, start moving towards that slightly older kid, and you find the balance of, when you need to kind of push them a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that a little kid that, wants you to hold them, doesn't want to be separated from mommy, you don't need the church daycare worker being like, well, they're going to have to learn. Well, they don't have to learn as a 2-year-old to be separated from me. They'll be fine. Give them all the secure attachment that they want, and they step away when they're ready. They're more secure when they go off to sleepovers, go to school, and everything.
Again, talking
when
about
they
those,
didn't sit there,
form.
when they didn't sit there as a 2 and 3-year-old stressing and crying for mommy. They just don't have that in their psyche to have to worry and miss mommy. They've always had mommy. They sleep
Mom's
with mommy
there.
if they
Even
want
now,
to.
mom's always there.
Yeah, that mom's always there. They don't have it in their psyche to freak out as an 8-year-old. Like, that sleepover's going to be scary because, they have that familiar pathway of being upset and scared at night without mom, or, I don't know, the kids are super, super confident when you let them be super, super attached, as long as they need, up to 5. A couple of my kids were more like 8 years old, Milk Dud was still super attached up until he was about 8.
Yeah, I feel like kiddos gonna be like that, because I'm like, kiddos, I was doing this water thing. I tried to there was this little small sort of get together at a beach. Let me pull it up. There was a small little get together at the beach, and they had these funny jet shoes to try. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I think as I went out, Milliardo had brought them back from the other side of the beach, so they saw me go out. I tried it a little bit. I come back in. They're both standing on the beach, like, mom, crying for me. And as the lady's helping me get out of the boots, I'm like, I look over at them crying for me. I'm just like, it's hard being a celebrity.
Yeah. And so then, they hit age about 5, and they really do hit an age that I somehow naturally end up putting down my foot hard on listening to small things. Like, if you said, hey, don't mess with this right now. I'll be right, back. Or don't touch the dial on the radio. And they think, haha, it's funny just to do what you said not to do, because they don't think it's a big deal.
Or
and I try to
kind of la in their head and they're not really listening. I talk about being triggered sometimes when kiddo just won't listen. And even though it's I had a healthy childhood, kids will push your buttons, and it'll just be like,
well, you can try to stay calm by going into storytelling mode, or
getting goofy with little kids is often a very good way to
either
redirect the energy,
make it
break
play
the
pretend,
tension.
or you go into storytelling mode about, what if I had said, oh yeah, we're going to do this project here in a second, but don't touch this one vial because, and I didn't tell you the because, and you might be like, well, I didn't know. And then I come back, and because of you touching it, it ruined it or hurt you. And you say, but I didn't know. I just want to touch it. Not every time that I tell you not to do something, I can give you the full explanation of what bad could happen if you don't listen to me. And I've always kind of had some kind of natural point where they're really just not listening to every little thing that I said. And so I said, well, until you get to the point that you listen when I just kind of casually and tell you nicely like a friend, like, hey, don't mess with that right now, or hey, don't go over there, that until you can listen again, I'm going to just have to be really hard for the whole week. And then I make it purposeful, like that every little thing I tell them to do is really stern and serious, like, you cannot do this. And then, just do it for a little bit and try to over exaggerate, and then go like, okay, now, this time if I just was like, hey, don't do this right now, will you listen? That I'll stop being a mean mom if you'll just listen.
Wait,
to
what
me
did
when
you
I
always
talk
say
nicely.
if we're like, oh, you're being mean?
Good, now I don't have to keep pretending. I can actually be a mean mom. Don't have to pretend anymore to be nice.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, I get to about age 5, but it's on a person-to-person buddy level. Like, hey, look, I can tell you decently, or I can be mean about making them. And there's so many things kids will do that come about naturally, that they mess with something they shouldn't, and something breaks or gets knocked out, or something goes wrong, and they'll go, but I didn't know. It's like, exactly, you don't always know how important it is. It may be a little thing, but it may be a big deal, and you just have to, I'm not telling you to be mean, like, don't do that. I'm just letting you know, hey, don't do this, and stay on their level.
Okay, I guess or do you have any advice on screens for yourself or for kids?
Well, for kids, you just absolutely, as toddlers, just not need to let them
It's very hard
know
once
or
it
get
becomes a thing.
because let them know that's a thing and an option to them, because you can't discipline that out of toddlers and preschoolers about moderating screen time. So like Vinny's kids, they don't have screen time, they don't have a TV upstairs, they get to go watch movies. And they really don't. And there's been times when they were younger and me trying to deal with them, I let them like play games on a phone, and it's really hard as toddlers to make it. Has to be an all or nothing thing. And then now, as they've gotten to be a little older, I pretty much just go, no, adult phones aren't for kids. You just don't get that. You don't need it. There was times because of dealing with a toddler, and I was like, and I was taking them on long trips, and I let them, just as a lazy parent, but I'm an old grandma now, let them have screen and movie time on a device that their parents didn't let them do. But then again, I'm also grandma, so it can be like, well, grandma let you do that, but it's not going to happen at home. So there can be. So, but if it was the parent and you let them do that,
I've definitely fallen into. Well, it's hard too, because it's like, for those grandkids, they're by you, and so it's like there's time with the parents, time with grandparents. There's like when it's been me out here where I don't really have consistent support or help with things. I've fallen into it a lot more and had to manage.
And it's just harder if it's dysregulated kids, and
because there was when kiddo was struggling a lot more, like I guess last year.
Otherwise, you just be like, no, you go find something to do. Kids need to be bored. Good. You need to have boredom. Now, little dough baby, he does fine with getting lost in his own boredom and wandering around and being lost in his own space, playing outside. That's what kids need to do. Some kids that are dysregulated, that's but phones didn't used to exist. We did that with kids before there was phones.
And like there was TV, there's plenty of TV, but it's still different than having the little device. And like with talking about dysregulated kids and screens, it's hard to get out of it because there's a lot of times in like early last year, when kiddo a couple years younger, where he would just be so dysregulated, and now he can move past things. Like he gets upset, I turn it off. He'll be upset, but he's able to move on. And then back then, when he was so dysregulated, most of the time, he just couldn't. He would just spiral. There'd be like an afternoon, I'd be like, okay, I'm not turning it back on, but it would just be a constant spiral. But we're finally managing to move past that.
The things that saying like, get silly or, storytell or play pretend, to distract them from, an upset or being mad or, things didn't go right. So there's the, kind of like, ooh, tell a story about, you can just say like, they're getting mad, and I'm like, oh, well, so-and-so was mad like that and kick. They could be middle screaming, kicking the windows in the car, and if you just start going, well, when so-and-so, somebody that they know, you say a name, did that too, when she was saying, and what happened, the window cracked, and they're like, what? They stopped mid-cry, like, what happened, and then give details. You give the gory graphic, as long as they're over the age of 5, gory graphic details of what happened when something broke or when somebody got hurt, to try to get across to them. This is why you can't do that, and you can tell them or then when they're just mad and not cooperating, and well, I'm not gonna, then you just do it funny, like the other day the pancakes were falling off the ceiling because the pancakes were not going to be just right. We already messed up and didn't do what he wanted just right with the pancakes and the making of them. So we were warned and threatened that if we gave him the pancakes, he was just going to squish them, tear them up, throw them on the floor. And instead of, trying to...
You don't want to add into that energy.
And I was like, then just like, okay, well, what if they just, or I think, no, that one wasn't because, there's times when it was because we made them wrong, but that one was because I touched them or moved them.
I moved them to the car.
Yeah, I moved them. If they appeared back, well, what if they just fell from the ceiling and fell on your plate, and then did funny things, spinning around where you can't see, it says behind my back, toss something over to the plate when he didn't see it. Oh, look, it fell out of the ceiling. And then it's like, make this fall from the ceiling, grab a random toy.
When I was trying to get them around Tokyo and get them to move from place to place, I had a little toy, like a small little toy lobster that I kept making, like, I'd make it disappear, and I'd be like, it's gonna show up in this other spot, we gotta find it. Hang on, I had a thought. Wait, I had a thought. Hang on. Talking about kids, and I guess trying to keep yourself regulated is probably the hardest part of raising a kid. And also being with a kid, working with a kid, like taking care of the kid. It's trying to do anything else outside that's hard.
Set your day up for success, not just set them up for success.
And so that's why different personalities and finding the balance of with routines, because people are always like, kids need routines. We never had
just
a
don't
routine.
be over ambitious. You set yourself up for not success when you're over ambitious at how things have to go. You just
lower your expectations. Always lower your expectations a little bit more,
and just be like, okay, we don't get to do all the things I want to do, but as long as what we do is good and well, we're fine. We didn't get to do, that's just with homeschooling, we didn't get to do all the things other school kids did, but as long as what we do. So that was the other thing with homeschooling. It doesn't matter for a kid if you hit all the different subject matters. Like in history, it really doesn't matter if you hit every little subtopic in history or science and review that with your kids. What matters is what you do it deeply, is much more important than learning little tidbits of baby facts. Every time I went to look at homeschool curriculum for elementary age for science, it was like one little page on butterflies and one little page on volcanoes and it was like, why do I want to spend money on this textbook that just tells you about a little bit about volcanoes? I mean, you can go to the library and get a book about volcanoes with much deeper learning and understanding and answering all their questions. So less subjects, but with deeper learning is way better for their brain than just trying to hit baby facts on. So anyway.
And those little facts are just common knowledge that you can easily just answer when they have questions.
So in life, what you do throughout your day, even if you don't have the greatest meal and a nice big favorite foods made.
You just need to, I'm so bad about
as long
routines.
as what you did do was good and good enough. You can't do all the things, so pick what you can do. And
I'm trying to get a better, rhythm to the day for, a little bit of structure. I'm not good at it, though. Of just trying to, keep a rhythm flowing better. Let's see, the other thing I was going to ask, let me think. I guess, the hardest thing is keeping yourself regulated. How do you keep yourself regulated? Especially little kids, I think there's someone on Instagram that she says, you have to be there calm. Don't get dysregulated with them.
You just have to start not giving a crap.
Well, that's also, okay, and then it's also, opinions on sort of gentle parenting, which has become, a very, it's kind of too wide of a term now. And there's, the balance, I think we've talked about, of, I find it helpful to, name what they're feeling, kind of acknowledge, okay, you're feeling like this, or this, not just bulldozing them. But you also don't want to get wrapped up and stuck in the spot with them.
Yeah, I've been told, even back when we lived, when you guys were little down south, that the other moms would be in a group and they would go, I like how you just, how do they say, no bones about it, just blurt, just cut right to the chase.
You're very real.
Like the kids are out there, the other parents are trying to.
You treat us as
and I was like,
people.
Cut it out. We're done. That's enough, or something, or
But like at the same time, there's that attachment, and we could be heard and ask questions.
Or I just call out like, quit doing that. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Or stop. Or I don't know. Or
and different personalities. Like kiddo, like doesn't want to be talked to all in the moment. I think it was helpful to like name things for him, so then when he's upset, he'll be like, I feel this or that. But and so many kids, you gotta work with the kid and what they need of like how you approach them.
Yeah.
There's not like one, like you can't take one like way of parenting and apply it to every one of your kids. You gotta figure out what works with
you just
each
can't
one.
let them. I mean, the whole kids being wild and you're not stopping them from doing things. It's like, no, there's some boundaries. You cut that out. You can't mess with those things.
Yeah.
And I can just let you,
Yeah.
Because it's your free expression and you're exploring things. Well, you're exploring everything in a stupid way, so stop.
Well, I think the gentle parenting is supposed to be like, holding the boundaries. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is however you go about holding the boundaries in the best way that will work with each kid, whether it's like, I don't know, the second grand girl, how like you approach her versus the older grand girl of just, I guess the different approaches come down to how are you holding that boundary? Is it like you're more authoritative, very strict, and don't really let them talk or have their opinion on stuff, holding boundaries? Are you kind of a more gentler way of holding boundaries? Is the kid a little more receptive to a kind of softer approach to holding boundaries?
Yeah, and then all of them, as long as they're not flipping out, screaming at you, and being angry and talking ugly at you, you'll stop and listen to them. I'll always let them talk, explain themselves, but I will, like the one, then I'm holding a boundary, and then she'll calculatedly then just decide and look at me like, well, then you can't make me, and I'm not going to, like leave the park or do whatever. It's like, I'll tell flat out, you're not talking to me like that. Don't be ugly.
Yeah, don't be ugly. And like there's a certain amount of respecting dignity for the kid, like the way you approach it, like we're our own little people from the beginning, and there's a certain communication sort of respect as we've grown, like we've had a strong attachment. There's been, there's always been clear boundaries about stuff, and yeah, you're very direct about things.
Yeah.
But there's that also, but there's that there's the attachment and relationship is very strong, and so then as we get older, everything's built on that from the young years. Like you can't suddenly, it's very hard to build that relationship and trust and respect later on if it wasn't there when they were younger. Let's see. How do you go about trying to, because I feel like I fall into like just trying to take things away from kiddo to get what I want out of him, but it's not very effective. So I don't know, I guess, so that one, and then, I gotta go get dressed and leave soon.
Yeah.
That, and then your opinion on tisms.
Oh. I thought you just misspelled stems.
No,
Tism.
I don't know, I probably just spelled that one too. I can't spell, I just tell stories and editing buffs it out.
Yeah, there is definitely, children, and that's the thing now is that they have the level 1, 2, and 3, and yes, people.
They should have kept it with
Asperger's and people
and
with level 3 kids that it's like, we have to like zip tie their pajamas together, otherwise they're going to paint with poop all night, or I would rather him not have this because I have to worry that he's just going to swallow screws or dart into traffic, and there is definitely damage and need to repair something going on at one level of the spectrum. But yes, you have a whole lot of tisms that is basically just diagnosing differences as disorders. We are different,
There's also, I was talking to a friend and
they talk about support needs. Okay, it's just
most of the okay, wait, real quick. I was talking to a friend and kind of there was like a little post I had read about it where it's like the most like autism diagnosis is someone that has a different kind of body and different kind of brain, but it's been pushed into distress.
Yeah.
And that's what the diagnosis is, where there's plenty of, I feel like a lot of us or other people where, there's certain things or like things like ADHD or autism where your
There's-
body's more sensitive, or we're so surrounded by
And there's
stuff that's
damage and
blocking.
inflammation in the
Yeah,
body.
and the inflammation things are, something's in distress in your body, inflammation, different things that have happened, and so these little quirks of yours are then pushed into a disorder.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying, oh, well, this was around with your parents and grandparents and everything.
But we weren't
they're
so
quirky.
heavily inundated with this
you're looking at
environment.
grandpa who has, different colored shoes of the same style all lined up funny and saying, see, it just, because he's quirky and it's a difference of his and that's always been there, but we didn't have so many disordered, struggling young children. I mean, okay, maybe these people weren't diagnosed as autistic back in the 1950s and 60s.
But their body
they
wasn't in
also-
such distress from the overload of just the toxins in our environment and stuff we're pumping.
I mean, they were quirky kids. They were hard to handle as 6-year-olds. They didn't fit in. They, probably were a little bit damaged and traumatized by some of how they were treated in school, trying to get them to behave. But they weren't kids that were, completely flipping out of their mind, darting into traffic and, just losing it and not being able to get through their day, and then, so you got the quirks, the differences being diagnosed as disorders that are amplified right now. And then you have straight up damage, which is a completely different thing than the inherent quirks of some people that are tisms. You have straight up damage in some people. We've seen it in people we know, and you see it in people that, yes, we would want to take that away from that person. Yes, would want to change them. They wouldn't be a different them. They would be them, but, without
the stress in their body.
Yeah. So, and
you always I don't know, for us, you probably could have taken us and most of us probably could have gotten diagnosed with something.
Yeah.
But I don't know, my view right now is unless there is a need for that paper to get something, to have it on paper for a diagnosis, to get something, some resource, I don't feel like I need it, because I would take the same approach
without
as I take
a stressful young childhood and without having to try to find yourself after being lost in a group setting, then as a child becomes pre-adolescent, adolescent, they figure out what works for them, just like with dyslexia. As long as you didn't destroy their love of reading and make them feel stupid before they're 12 years old,
started my novels at 12 because I love stories.
They can figure it out. And it's like one of the little brothers, he's kind of late in reading, and it was so funny because he started doing some stuff, and the other brothers in the family and even older ones are going, wow, that's awesome, you're so smart, kid, and cheering him on. And I'm thinking to myself, if he was in school, people would be saying that's such a baby thing to learn at this point. But yeah, you can be celebrated and, learn at their own pace. Let's see, how to manage kids without just taking things away. I guess with threats,
especially
do
the
this,
age my guys are at. We're mostly with kiddo. I feel like I fall into that with him because I don't have the other tools
I guess
need.
being more proactive ahead of the game,
yeah, that's
anticipating
true
it,
with a lot of that.
and ooh, we're gonna do this, so get your shoes on when we get to the car.
I've been trying to
we're gonna not put your shoes on and then I'll give you this treat as a bribe,
yeah,
or
I've been trying to.
I'm not gonna let you have this unless you do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to do things knowing how much timeline I need to build in. We need to be driving away at this time, so half an hour before that time is when I start trying to get them
But
to the car.
I've never done a whole lot of the grounding or taking things away. Yeah, and then I guess in a way they say, well, you're not supposed to use your emotions or shame them. But with the kid, I mean, I let them naturally see my displeasure of,
You're not you
what
never
you're
blame
doing.
us, but you're real about how you feel.
So the other day, the 3 kids were in the van and I stopped.
So I noticed Kiddo will do that to Doe Baby, where he's upset about something. It's but you're making me sad about stuff.
But I stopped and do something, and then got distracted because their man pulled off the road and was asking for directions. And when I first stopped to do something, I heard them getting mad in the car over something. I stopped, popped my head and said something. I forget what that was about that I said to them. But while I was trying to talk to them, I heard them crying and screaming, carrying on in the van. But I wanted to finish that up, and I get to the van, and I see, middle child in the back, just sobbing and upset and whatever. And then older sister looking a bit smug, and they kind of pissed me off in that moment.
It's so easy to get pissed off. It's so hard to manage. It's when you get pissed off is when it's hard to manage.
I'll be real with them. I was like, what in the world are you doing just sitting there thinking it's kind of funny and trying not to laugh at me while your little sister is literally sobbing and red in the face? Are you proud of yourself? I do not like that at all. And then had the little discussion of, when you do something good for somebody I love, it's like you're doing it for me. When you hurt somebody I love, it's like you're also hurting me. What you do to the least of your brothers, you do unto me. And we had this conversation.
What was it last night trying to leave the festival? I had a conversation with Kiddo because there's a sidewalk and there's kind of a gutter, and there were cars moving along that road. It was starting to open up, and he really wanted to walk on the little gutter spot next to the sidewalk. And I was focused on trying to make sure we got to the bus to take over to the parking spot. And I in retrospect, I didn't need to stress because most people parked other places and the bus wasn't that full. But I was just like, oh, we got to go get the car.
That's the rushing and stressing kids always is the damaging part.
So, so we're walking, and I told him, like, if you're coming with me, we got to go. Like, you got to walk with me, and we got to keep going. And so he's walking, and he's wanting to walk on the gutter. I'm just like, nope, we got to go. And very, not like yelling at him, but very curt, like, nope, we're doing this. You have to go. And he's kind of flopping or upset. But he, I think I got him on my back. And then in the bus, I think a lot of times I'll tell him, like, if it's a safety thing, I'll get really kind of harsh with him or pointed with him about it. And I'll explain to him it's because I really don't want you to get hurt. Like, I get so pointed about it because I want to make sure I won't want you to get hurt.
Yeah. Well, and the bigger sister that was being smug in there, she was mad and angry at me. Like, I just wanted to go. I was tired of waiting. You're taking too long.
I was bad about being like, Mom, let's go. You see how much of a chatter she is. One time you took away, talking about taking away stuff, you took away the bike riding jacket. We were in a store, and I got like a vest or like a bike gear shirt. And I was being, fussing, like, Mom, can we go? And you're trying to talk to someone, and you got fed up, and you're like, all right, I'm taking this shirt away for a week. You don't get to have this shirt until, like, later or something. I remember that.
Yeah. But it's like, then when I told her, that I was so irritated with what was going on there in the van, and I was like, there was a poor man asking for directions. I was trying to be kind to this man and give him directions. Should I have not done that? And then, well, I didn't know. I said, see, you don't always know. And then I lecture them too about, when adults are setting up fun things for you to do, mommy's taking you out shopping, or, I'm taking you wherever we're doing. And then when there's one small thing you have to wait for because of adult stuff, and you give us a hard time and complain, it makes us not have any fun or not want to do this with you. We don't have to be doing the fun thing with you. And it's very rude of you to just go, oh, I'm bored, and complain the one time that you have to wait on us for something.
This is very relevant to, like, as kids get out of toddler age. Yeah. Toddler age is just try and plan ahead.
But I just be real with them. I tell them that just like they were an adult.
I think that's how.
Instead of just punishing and being, you were bad, grumbling at me like that, I'm going to take something away from you. I just be real with them, tell them what for, when I need to, explain when I can.
Let's see. Chat. There's chat. Any last questions? Probably. I don't know. I'm probably gonna wrap up. I think meeting people at 11, so I'll be fine. I think we hit most things. Different
11,
stories.
I thought you were meeting at 10:30.
I just checked the thing, and I think it's gonna be more like some. It was kind of staggered when people were meeting up. I think 11 will be fine, so I'll get out of here in just a minute.
It's still raining.
Not too much. I guess you guys can walk down to the beach from here. Yeah. And I don't know. I'll swing by. If you guys walk down there, I'll swing by before I come back to the house in case you walk down there. I know we had other plans, but we ended up just streaming. The kids are both just watching stuff right now. But you got lots of little projects to do with them. Let's see. Any other? I don't know. Any advice for me? What do I need to work on in motherhood?
Except what is at the moment, and
I need to
not what could have been or should have been or try to do.
I need to stress them out less.
Yeah.
Or just accept what it is.
Yeah, but stressing kids and whatever they're doing repeatedly is what will ingrain in their brain. Don't let them practice.
Do I need to get better at saying no to things?
Let them practice it. Yes, just without negotiate. The one is trying to be a master negotiator.
I know. And I need to. I probably tend to get a
look
little
at the negotiations we used to have to do in gymnastics to get in the dang car seat. I mean, at least now it's like in the car seat.
Yeah, that's the thing.
buckle.
If he's improved a lot, and now I can actually get out and about with them more regularly. The biggest thing I think with small kids is be out of the house as much as possible because they can't make a mess at the house, and you don't go as crazy.
Okay, so the last thing, anything that's going wrong, you need to either do outside or water or both.
Yep.
If it's just the bathtub, then just do
especially
the bathtub.
Young kids, especially young
if
kids.
you can be outside, get outside. If you can get outside and let them spray or splash in water, do both. But outside and water to fix any big meltdowns and
probably for myself too. If I'm feeling, I need to make sure I have my tools in my hand for one of the problems I usually run into. I need to make sure I have my tools or little things I fall back on if I'm dysregulated or I'm starting to be like, oh, what is
fall into nature or water or both.
Yeah, though it's hot here sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if we're at the house, it's hard to just step outside in the yard in the middle of the day if it's the summer. It's too hot. Unless I had I don't know. It's hard to keep myself motivated. It's easy to stay motivated when you're here. It's hard to keep myself motivated in doing what I need to and not just sitting around when it's just me and the kids.
Yeah. Well, I guess we better tend to kids that are around here.
Yeah. A little bit of screen time after all this running around this week. And I don't know, that's the thing with screen time. I was talking to Mom of okay, how should I balance it? Because they're going to ask for it.
Let's see, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. For about 5 days, I've kind of, we've kind of
Don't dump it on the bed, please.
Out of the house first thing and not be home until after dark. So there's been no option of screen time.
And I can't keep that tempo all the time, but just trying
this
to
morning
manage.
we haven't gotten out of the house yet. Usually we've gotten out by now, or at least
by now, at this point in the day, we're usually trying to get kiddo out to the car and get buckled, and then we usually leave by 11 or 12.
Yeah.
All right. I think that will be good enough. We managed our funny little stream. You guys see where I get my yapping from. All right, let's see. I need to go. Pippa was doing a gorilla stream. I wonder if it's still going. Let me see. Where's my buttons? Ba-ba-da-ba-da. Over here. Let's see here. I might mute in a second. I'm probably gonna say bye. Bye, guys. Stay fresh and healthy. Stay around for the raid. Stay fresh, my friends.
Stay healthy.
Wait, you gotta pause that.
Wait, Mama, he found some.
Okay, we're gonna raid to Moe. She's doing the binding of Isaac something. Alright, bye guys!